Good to have you with us on our Sunday coverage here on Fox Sports 1 and SNY. You're watching America's Day at the Races. It's brought to you in part by America's Best Racing. For the love of the race, visit americasbestracing.net today. Sloppy sealed track. We're off the turf this afternoon. I'm Greg Wolf. Good to be with you in a big race coming up early on our coverage here in race number 2. Grade 2, Gallant Bloom, arguably the top female sprinter in the country. She can try and further that case. Ways and means with a victory today on her final stop to the Breeders' Cup World Championships in that filly and mare sprint division. We're 5 minutes away from our opener on the card coming up, but here's a look at the field for this Gallant Bloom and Ways and Means. Odds on 3-5 for trainer Chad Brown. Klarovich Stables, Flavian Pratt will ride. She's coming off the first graded stakes win of her career in that impressive run in the Grade 1 test. So I bring in my crew here, Jonathan Kinchin, champion jockey, Richard Migliori. Hard to believe, even just 2 starts back, she was still eligible for a first-level allowance race, but that day against older company, she showed up and proved she is very good, and she backed it up in the test.
Yeah, well, she was outstanding in her debut at Saratoga when she was a 2-year-old, but then things just kind of went awry for her. She had to take some time off. She came back trying to get qualified for the Kentucky Oaks, came up a little bit short, tried that Kentucky Oaks at 1 1/8, and then realized maybe one turn's going to be her best friend.
Yeah, she's absolutely a much better one-turn kind of horse. I think up to a mile. She probably 7/8 is probably her ideal distance. I like this move. Gallant Bloom as a prep for the Breeders' Cup, trying to make it maybe a little bit easier on her, but I think Nick Style might have some other ideas.
Yeah, it could be a real rival next door. She comes in undefeated but untested as well. This will be her graded stakes debut coming up for Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott. That's race 2, 1:34 Eastern start time. We kick off the card, though, with this $20,000 claiming race, 6.5 furlongs. And here is a look at part of the entry, Carbon Blinkers On.
Yeah, Carbon didn't do much running last time. It does have some back numbers that could make competitive.
We'll break from post 2. The other half of the entry will break third to the outside, Gringotts.
Yeah, it feels like the same type of horse as the stable mate or the entry mate. Has a couple of races, but it's definitely going to have to be faster to beat these.
Luis Rivera Jr. on Gringotts. The rail to Tyrona, trained by Lindsey Schultz.
Yeah, Lindsey Schultz wins at a high percentage, ships in here with a horse that's been running okay at Parks, and you get Irad Ortiz Jr.
Jackie the Joker will have Katie Davis aboard.
Our own Andy Serling picked this horse on the handicapping show Talking Horses, made a good case for the race 3 back.
It's a 6-time winner, Toscanova Beauty at 5-1.
Yeah, ran well 3 starts back behind She's a Little Edgy.
Speed with She's a Little Edgy and blinkers go on.
Yeah, those blinkers might help her try to find some of that speed from a couple of races back.
Coming off a win as the favorite last start, the 6 Mon Petit Chou.
Mon Petit Chou, My Little Cabbage. Lane Luzzy moves back up in company off the claim.
There's Obrigada, first off the claim, Rob Atcher's barn.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't like this horse in here. I thought got an absolutely perfect trip last time. How much better could it get here today?
She's the favorite, though, right now. And then Jose Gomez, rider change on Awesome Anne Marie outside.
Yeah, outside and has some natural speed. Showed good speed last time. I think gets a good stalking trip from the outside at a big price.
2 minutes to post in this opener on the card. Pick 5 here starts right off the bat. Do want to remind everyone, too, later today, that Grade 2 Miss Grillo, that's canceled, rescheduled for next Sunday, October 6th, because of the weather this afternoon. 2-year-old fillies prepping for that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. Get signed up, started, play with Naira Bets. Get that $200 deposit match sign-up bonus with the code MATCH200 at sign-up, and you're ready to rock again right there at NairaBets.com. So sloppy, sealed track as we get set for this first coming up here, $20,000 claiming race at 6.5 furlongs. Let's check in with Acacia Clement downstairs.
And we'll start off with your current favorite, Greg, Obrigada, who does make a first start for the Rob Atras barn and has been in good form now with the presence, as you mentioned, in the post-parade of some other speed horses in here. I cannot envision this race playing out like it did last time where she was able to control. But a horse that I tried to pick against when looking on paper and given the fact that maybe they're all together not the most trustworthy bunch. And can you see this one win at a potentially short price? But she just looked best in the preliminary preliminaries, went off for a big warm-up, moving beautifully over this track in here as well, and just looks like she's carried her weight very well for the new barn. And yes, she has some hurdles to overcome, trying to make it another victory, but I just really like what I saw from Obregatta currently. Now taking a look at the number 2, Tyrona, who does get back in distance for Lindsay Schultz, and this is a horse that we saw go 1 mile and 70 yards at Parks last time out behind Brown Sugar Babe, and that's significant because that horse came here for Jamie Ness just the other day and won at Aqueduct with a 74 Beyer speed figure. So certainly highlighting that race that she does come out of, because sometimes we have some questions as to how that Parks form does stack up coming here to the NYRA circuit. I do think that she's a better sprinter, even though there is some good size to her. Her races going short, I think, have been stronger. And the race 2 starts back was a good one, though was avoided claim following that effort at 7 furlongs. But she stacks up favorably to her competition here. My first time laying eyes on her. Another one that seemed to warm up well over this track. Now the number 6, Mon Petit Choux, another one who had a win last time out and now has been claimed. She looks sensational. She always does, though. I have an affinity for this mare. She holds her weight well. She had a strong warm-up. She's one that I think is not necessarily a horse that maybe loves a wet track, but she's doing well right now. And actually, Choux is basically like a little pet name in French. I asked my mother-in-law about it, and she says basically it's like darling. So there's actually several French names, including a chouchou later on today, which is just like a little pet name, a little sign of affection, Greg.
Acacia, thank you. Favorite, the 7 here, Obregatta. Rob Atras barn claiming off of Rudy Rodriguez. And there she is, 4-year-old filly, 5-time winner. Her second try on and off track. And Manny Franco will be aboard. Race 2, that early feature. Grade 2 Gallant Bloom, where we'll see ways and means. First things first, this $20,000 claiming sprint, 6.5 furlongs on this sloppy sealed surface. Let's turn it over to Chris Griffin for the call.
Carbon goes in. Here's Gringotts. Jackie the Joker. Jackie the Joker in. 2 out. Awesome Anne Marie. Toscanova Beauty. Now Awesome Anne Marie hesitates. Moving forward. And in. All set. And they're off. Speed immediately from the outside, Obregatta, and also Awesome Anne Marie in the early mix. And in between horses, here's She's a Little Edgy to join the early fray. She's a Little Edgy has now got a head in front. Obregatta towards the outside is challenging, and at the rail, here comes Jackie the Joker. These 3 across the track now. Green cap, Awesome Anne Marie is tucked in 4th now, is going to move, actually going to stay on that outside path. Their in between horses is Tyrona, is now a shared 5th. And behind them, it's another 2.5 to Mon Petit Choux. Then comes Gringotts towards the tail end of the field. Too far back, it's Toscanova Beauty with Carbon. The trailer well into the far turn now as they went 22 seconds flat for that opening quarter mile, and they're chasing She's a Little Edgy. Jackie the Joker moving smoothly here at the rail. Pink Silks is looking for a way out. Under drive here towards the outside is Awesome Anne Marie, is now in pursuit. Losing some ground was Obregatta. They're chasing She's a Little Edgy, who reaches the top of the stretch and tries to kick away. She's a Little Edgy still has a 2-length cushion. Awesome Anne Marie with every shot towards the outside. Tyrona making up ground in the pink cap towards the inside. She's a Little Edgy has shown no signs of stopping yet. Less than a furlong left to go. Now Tyrona starts to engage towards the inside. It is now Tyrona who's chasing She's a Little Edgy. She's a Little Edgy. Tyrona, though, with all the momentum. Tyrona, Irad Ortiz Jr., they get up and they win the Sunday opener. It's Tyrona to win it over She's a Little Edgy, who's in a photo with Jackie the Joker and Awesome Anne Marie in 1 minute 17.47 seconds.
She's a Little Edgy trying to do it on the front end, but up the inside, Irad Ortiz Jr. and Tyrona for Lindsay Schultz picks up the 4th win of her career.
Yeah, nice ride, nice trip for Tyrona. Lindsay Schultz wins at a high percentage, doesn't ship horses around just to pay a visit to a new track. And if we had any doubts about maybe with the sloppy racetrack, the inside not being good, she rode the rail the entire way, Jonathan.
Yeah, she did. She projected to if she could find her performance 2 back down at Parks. If she ran that race, which I think she just did, it was pretty likely that she was going to run as well as she did. She got a great ride, a great trip up the inside, almost on that tire mark there, but she ran extremely well.
Cutting back in distance and saving all that ground and utilizing the inside and the shortest way around. Irad Ortiz Jr. here at 9-2 to kick off his Sunday card. So 2-5-3-8 here in the opener.
And this is why I admire Irad Ortiz Jr. so much. It does not matter if it's a 20 claimer on a sloppy track in the opening race of the card on a Sunday or a grade 1, you are going to get an A effort from him.
Every single race. It's amazing how he just has that motor, too, to want it so bad. What do you think about his mount coming up in the next race? Sterling Silver, who last year, crossed the wire first in the Gallant Bloom, well clear, but disqualified for interference.
Well, I do think she gets pace. Nick Stiles seemingly got one way to go, and Ways and Means is not going to give her much rope. That's how a closer that maybe isn't quite as good as the best in the race can win when things kind of get heated in the middle of the race.
Look, if you like Sterling Silver, I think at some point early in the race, you're going to think you're getting a perfect trip in behind Nick's style and Ways and Means, but she's going to have to run her best lifetime race to beat one of those two, if one of those two or both of them show up.
She does have some races, though, on the resume that fit with these, but her last few races doesn't seem to be that same type of mare anymore. We'll see if she can find a throwback effort and get involved in the mix. When you're going against this filly, it's going to be a tough battle. Ways and Means, she is very, very good. The word was out before she ever ran, and now she is a grade 1 winner with that performance in the test this summer from Saratoga.
Yeah, she was sensational. And she was sensational on debut. Unfortunately, she was injured in the spinaway as a 2-year-old, so her 2-year-old campaign kind of came to a quick halt. But she's back now, and she's doing what it seems like she wants to do, which is running around one turn. And at this point, or ask me in 30 minutes, she could potentially be the favorite for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint.
You can make a case that she should be undefeated around one turn. That spinaway, she clipped heels, and she was beaten by a very good horse in Bright Work. But she was unlucky that day. And it's always my contention is horses get injured when they clip heels or they get that bumping matches. That's why I'm always critical of when I think riders are being overly rough. That wasn't the case. There was just circumstance. But, around one turn, she's nearly perfect.
And obviously, we're going to see what happens here and if she takes that next step. But right now, going into this race, do you believe she's the best female sprinter in the country?
I do. I think her numbers are competitive with a horse like Vava, but I think that Vava is a mature horse, while Ways and Means is a 3-year-old and going to continue to improve. So while they're close right now, you'd like to think that after this race, with a little bit more improvement in the next month or so, Ways and Means could get better.
22 minutes away from that grade 2 Gallant Bloom. We'll see Ways and Means coming up in just a few minutes. Tyrona kicks off the card. Trained by Lindsay Schultz, owned by 10 Strike in Four Corners Racing. Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard. Let's head downstairs to Acacia with a winning rider.
Irad Ortiz starting off the day in style with Tyrona. And Irad, you're coming up the inside with this horse. Can you talk a little bit about that kind of trip and just the way that she really accelerated when you asked?
I really have the one hole, so broke good. Let him find some position. She's a big one, got a huge stride, so I don't want to get on her weight, and everything worked out beautiful. Half a mile I was riding behind the leaders. With horse, she gave me a good feeling, so I bide my time and see the holes open inside, so I go for it and got the job done. She was ready.
It certainly paid off. And we've seen kind of, over the last couple of days with some of the wet weather, kind of it looks almost like you're staying kind of on the tire tracks. Can you expound upon finding kind of the parts of the track where maybe there's not as much kickback or maybe it's packed down a little bit more?
It's been good since yesterday, the real. I mean, sometimes when it's like this, raining on the track, the inside used to be okay. I mean, but yesterday, today, I feel like it's fair, anywhere you at. So I was not afraid to stay there and wait, so worked out perfect.
Certainly did. And we saw some nice wins for you yesterday as well, including Mufasa in the Vosburg. How fun was that? The way that he really accelerated away from his competition.
It was pretty nice. I mean, he's a nice horse. He did it pretty easy. And even after a while, I feel like I've had some more, so that's pretty exciting. So hopefully he make it the right way, to stay 100% and healthy, and let's see what happens with him.
Bright future indeed. Well, congratulations on starting the day off well with this win here in the first.
Thank you.
Irad Ortiz off the back of the stakes win yesterday, about to climb aboard Sterling Silver for the first time in the next, Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Acacia. That is coming up. She asked about Mufasa, too, that winner of the Vosburg yesterday. Those connections have a decision to make. Do they want to turn back and go to the sprint, or do they want to go a little bit longer and go in the dirt mile?
Well, that's a tough question because it looks like he's very capable of getting a mile. And, you know, the sprint is so dependent on the trip you get, right? You know, you got to break sharp. You don't want to get shuffled back. It's always a mad scramble. He was impressive. I'm excited to see whichever way he goes.
Yeah, you got a fast number, too, to suggest. I mean, I would think the sprint makes a little bit more sense, feels a little bit more wide open. You know, when you look at a race like the dirt mile, often you'll get these really talented dirt types maybe cutting back that didn't want to go as far, and that can sometimes be a more challenging race, especially in a year like this where there's no elite power.
Yeah, they got a little time to make that decision, but that was a powerful performance in that Vosburg for Mufasa, no question. Let's take a look at what's ahead on the program here on our FS1 coverage. Up next, of course, Grade 2 Gallant Bloom, Ways and Means, going head-to-head against the talented and undefeated Nick Style in her stakes debut. Miss Grillo has mentioned, canceled. It'll be run next Sunday, October 6th. And what is a key race for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. And as a result of that, those multi-race wagers canceled later today.
Yeah, including that pick 6 carryover, I think about 83,000 or thereabouts that will be on Thursday.
Indeed. Here we go. Grade 2 Gallant Bloom, 6.5 furlongs, purse of $250,000, and Grade 1 test winner Ways and Means opens up at 1-4 as a huge favorite here for trainer Chad Brown.
Yeah, I mean, look, she deserves to be a short price horse, and I thought Nick Style, and I still do think Nick Style will take a little bit of money in here. Sterling Silver taking some money. I think it's possible, if Ways and Means is who I think she is, she might actually go off at a price, and I know people think that you got to be 5-1 to be value. She might actually be value in this spot if she is who we think she is, if she goes off around 2-5, 3-5.
There she is. Chad Brown, Klarovich Stables, Flavia Pratt, Ways and Means, trying to put together her third win in a row here. Taking on older company in this Grade 2 Gallant Bloom as overwhelmingly the one to beat on her way to the Breeders' Cup. Stay with us. Back with you on our FS1 coverage here on America's Day at the Races, brought to you in part where you can play it all at Naira Bets. Get signed up, started, as we are 14 minutes away from this Grade 2 Gallant Bloom with Ways and Means, Grade 1 test winner from this summer. I'm going to look back to yesterday and a couple of big races on the road to the Breeders' Cup, starting with the Grade 1 Joe Hurst Turf Classic. His 7-year-old mare, Warlike Goddess, trying to win this for a third year in a row and beat the boys again, but Farbridge now puts together back-to-back Grade 1 wins and does it very, very differently than he did last time.
Yeah, off the pace this time, and he runs into a blind switch here. The horse on the lead is going to back up in his face, and he has to hit the brakes while the race is going forward. This is the hardest thing for a horse to overcome, when a race accelerates and they have to go backwards before they can re-rally. And the fact that he was able to find his stride again, Jonathan, speaks of his athleticism and just what good form he is right now.
This horse has gotten good, back-to-back Grade 1s. Joel's kind of found out that he likes being down on the inside. At the 3/8 pole, I thought Silver Knot was gone. When he opened up, I thought that aggressive move, sitting off of those fractions, and then he looked like he was a little bit in trouble with Warlike Goddess moving at him a little bit, and then there goes whole Farbridge right up the inside.
Yeah, again, just the fact that a big horse like this could re-find his stride after having hit the brakes at a critical juncture really speaks to his athleticism and how good he is at the moment. I think Warlike Goddess had her trip. She had her opportunity. She just got outrun by a better horse on the day yesterday. Silver Knot, I like the move, trying to rip the race open. Don't really think he handled the ground as well as you might think.
Yeah.
Now, Farbridge, Sword Dancer win, Grade 1 last time out, gate to wire. That surprised everybody. This time around, from far back, overcoming adversity. But again, Joel Rosario got him down to the inside, and that's what's key for this horse.
Yeah, it just seems like you can ride him more freely when he's inside. When he's outside, it seems like you're constantly having to correct him because he wants to get over on top of horses. Finding the inside is so important. I thought he made a big mistake when he overcommitted to that spot behind that, pacemaker that was tiring. I think it was a mistake. I think he was able to overcome it because the horse was very good on the day.
Meanwhile, Grade 2 Woodward Stakes, and Todd Pletcher had said would Tapit try. Certainly, of course, they want to get to the Breeders' Cup Classic, but he wanted him to do it the right way, earn his way there, and it looked like he did with this win yesterday. This race did not start good for him at all.
No, he broke really slow, and he looked like he was in trouble in a race that we were screaming and yelling about earlier about how there's no pace in the race. It felt like he was kind of doomed from the start here. And not only that, Dylan somehow found a little bit of trouble, too, at a spot right before this, had to check a little bit, but he just kept coming. He's a very grindy type of horse.
Didn't it look like he was almost running with the emergency brake on here in between horses, maybe getting a little bit of kickback? He was inside of Pippi Longstocking. Watch when he shifts out to the clear. Doesn't his stride change completely? All of a sudden, his head drops a little bit. He starts to reach for ground. He just got so much more comfortable when he got outside, overcame adversity. Bad break, steadying at a critical juncture. Very nice effort.
Good win. He's going to stamp that ticket and get into that Breeders' Cup Classic. His best, though, Jonathan, does it match up against some of these horses we're looking at going into that Breeders' Cup Classic?
Unfortunately, I don't think it quite does. I think, could he win the Breeders' Cup Classic? Sure. If they go 45 to the half, Sierra Leone doesn't fire, City of Troy doesn't fire, and then, yeah, maybe. But I think he's up against it to a certain extent.
I don't think anybody's going to mistake this Woodward with one of those Woodwards we used to see with Forgo or Affirmed or that type. But the fact that he overcame adversity and finished the way he did when he got in the clear, I agree. He gets the right kind of pace. A horse like that's always dangerous.
And, for Skippy Longstocking, everyone talked about he's going to control this horse race from the outset. Surprised he didn't even get to the front early, but then the fact he was not able to finish. Saffie Joseph Jr. was considering Dirt Mile or Classic going into this. What do you think now?
Oh, I think you definitely would want a Dirt Mile. He was third in there last year. The thing about Skippy Longstocking is, and we talked about it yesterday, he is the type of horse that if you find the right Grade 3, the right Grade 2, he's going to win. I just don't feel like he's a Grade 1 type of horse.
Yeah, he would need everything to go Love to own him, though.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Been very good. He's won some big races, no question, and earned a lot of money in his career. So decisions for a lot of these people. It sounds like Tapit Trice certainly going on to the Breeders' Cup Classic. There she is, Ways and Means, Grade 1 winner of the prestigious test earlier this summer on a muddy, sealed racetrack, sloppy and sealed today. And that race was obviously very, very good, beating Grade 1 company. The race before that, though, that performance, 104 by her speed figure, that's the quickest race she's ever run. And she's not going to get it today, again, because we have a wet track. She might be even better on a fast track, and she's probably going to get that on Breeders' Cup Day.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, I think it's one of the draws to the West Coast for the Breeders' Cup is it's going to be 80 and sunny, 70 and sunny, no matter what. And I think that that I will be interested to see how she runs here today. She needs to show up, and she needs to run fast. She needs to run well to kind of stamp herself as the favorite for the Breeders' Cup for the American Sprint.
Let's head downstairs to Acacia.
And we'll start there with Ways and Means, Grade 1 winner. Obviously, the class speaks for itself and what she's accomplished on the racetrack so far. Now, it is interesting. I always kind of smile looking at her because she's a big horse. You can understand why Connections would think that she'd be able to handle the added distances, but she's just shown that the one turn and shorter is what she wants to do, and she was very impressive in that Grade 1 test last time out. She's also a horse that kind of runs mean. She runs angry. She has her ears pinned. She has that dominant alpha mentality. Horses are herd animals, and so those that really do have that dominance, it shows just in her demeanor overall. She's incredibly fit. She looks terrific once again. Looking at the two, Nick Style, I was not in the paddock for her last race, but comparing notes with Maggie Wolfendale, she said that she just looked faster than the Todd Pletcher horse that was the favorite in that race, and that Nick Style was also very spicy, really energetic throughout in the preliminaries. That's not the case today. She's been very laid back here in the paddock. Now, it could just be virtue of the fact that she's second off the layoff. She's very fit. She's well developed in that hind end, and she is fast early. Did beat Vendetta, the third place finisher, who came back with an 84 buyer, the same that she ran that day. And I like that we've been able to see her put back-to-back races together now on the track. Let's see if she can do it again against tougher company, Greg.
Sterling Silver went by cross the wire in this race first last year by 4 lengths and then got disqualified.
Yeah, Sterling. Yeah, my bad. I thought we were going to the next one.
Nick Style, undefeated, the speedster. And here's Ways and Means.
Yeah, Ways and Means. Look, if she can run fast here and run well here, she's going to be the. I think she'll be the favorite for the Philly American Sprint.
Pacific Rose, big price here with Ricardo Santana Jr.
Yeah, I'm sure they would be thrilled to hit the board and get some graded stakes placing with her.
And Hot Fudge for Linda Rice has earned over $500,000 in her career. She's 8 for 17. That's a tough test, though.
Yeah, really cool horse, but she is up against it in terms of talent versus a couple of these other ones.
But that was a stumbling beginning for that post parade.
7 minutes away from this Grade 2 Gallant Bloom as it starts at pick 4 here. You can follow along with free Equibase past performances. Get all the stats on the trainers, jockeys, horses. Go to NYRA.com/TV schedule and download your free Equibase PPs. So 1-4 favorite. Obviously, Nick Style, she has proven that she's pretty good to this point, but a big test as we look at her right now for her first time in stakes company of any kind and facing potentially the best female sprinter in the country.
Yeah, I mean, she's undefeated, and that goes a long way. There's a lot of ways for horses to get beat in races, even when they're short prices. The problem I have with Nick Style is she has never been looked in the eyes by a horse like she's about to be looked in the eyes by, and that's the biggest concern I have about her.
I think it's a very, very fair point. And sometimes when a horse has to work harder for it than they have previously, that's when you find out what they're really made of. I will say this. I like Nick Style because the fact that she made one start in 22, off a very long time, one start in 23. Now she's making back-to-back starts in 2024. And I like the fact that maybe there's a little continuity there. Maybe it speaks that she's sounder right now. And fitness-wise, she has that race that potentially she can maybe even take a step forward.
Yeah, finally gets a race to build on for the first time in her career. It's a good point. And look, her 3 starts to this point where she is undefeated, she's won by more than 22 lengths combined. But she's never faced someone of this kind of quality, obviously, in Ways and Means. But she should be in front, shouldn't she?
I would think so, especially with the draw. I think the draw, Mig, is pretty important here, right? She should break away from there, from the inside, and be forward, but Ways and Means should sit right outside of her.
Yeah, Ways and Means is naturally fast. She's not going to be far away. I don't think Flavion's going to be looking to get in a speed duel, but he's certainly not going to give her a lot of rope, right, and let her get too brave. I'm going to take a little bit of a swing with Nick Style. I have utmost respect for Ways and Means, but I like her finally getting back-to-back races.
Meanwhile, there's the man who won the opener, Rat Ortiz Jr. on Sterling Silver, and at least coming into this test here the right way off a victory. It was against State Bread Company, going a little bit longer. Let's still look back to last year's race when she cleared this group by 4 lengths but did get DQ'd.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, rightfully so, she was DQ'd. You could have made a case that maybe she should have been placed further back in the Gallant Bloom that day. She was placed second, but she affected, I thought, the horse that was fourth as well. I thought she might have been placed by him. She was best, but she did commit a foul.
She's just going to have to take a little bit of a step forward. If the real Nick Style shows up, the real Ways and Means shows up, or one of those two shows up, I worry that she's going to have to run a little bit faster than she has. Now, she's going to get a nice little setup, and like I said, Nick Styles never really been looked in the eyes by a horse like Ways and Means, and who knows, Ways and Means maybe hasn't been looked in the eye by a horse like Nick Style, and you like to think that their styles should see them hooking up somewhere around the half-mile pole or the 3/8 pole, and it could be a long run to the wire that could set up nicely for Sterling Silver.
So 4-1 right now for this New York-bred 5-year-old mare. Let's go back to Acacia for more.
And I love Sterling Silver, and she's such a cool horse, and it was great to see her get that win last time. And she did get pace, but she came up the rail and finishing well in that Johnstone Mile. I thought in the Honorable Miss, she starts back. She just looked really dull in the preliminaries. She was really quiet in the way that she was handled. And that was not the case last time, and that's absolutely not the case today. She had a lovely warm-up away from the pony, extending herself nicely out there on the track as well, and just a horse that I think is doing well. Now, Rat Ortiz does climb aboard for the first time, as we mentioned, as Junior Alvarado will stick with Nick Style. And as far as Nick Style, maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but considering what Maggie said about the way that she acted last time out, and considering how fast she is, maybe they're taking the steps to try to keep her a little bit more quiet today, because she did not do much of a warm-up. She warmed up with the pony. I think she was the only one in the field really that did not break away for a big gallop, and just really kind of handled much quieter than I was expecting, especially for a horse that kind of has that forward sprint demeanor, and one that does have so much speed. Like I said, maybe it's just trying to keep her settled so that she doesn't do too much before the race even begins, especially with the quality of what she's facing today. Just something curious that I noticed, especially given her running style. But one thing we do know about her is that she has a lot of gate speed, and maybe that just will be, plain and simple, her best weapon in here, Greg.
We know she's quick early. Obviously, she's undefeated. She's run the competition off their feet to this point. We don't know how good she is. We're going to find out more, certainly, in a couple of minutes here.
Well, she's going to get the test today, and we're going to find out what she's more about. Look, there's no cookie-cutter way to do this, but I'm a big believer in warm-ups. I do not like when horses are not warmed up, and it doesn't even have to be aggressively. I want to see them have a good gallop. You're asking a 1,000-pound animal to go from 0 to almost 40 miles an hour instantly.
Meanwhile, moments ago, Ways and Means, 2-5 favorite, and a little adjustment there in the saddle. Flavien Prat, what's he doing here?
Yeah, so you have two girths with a racing saddle. You have your normal girth that you would have with any equestrian saddle, and then you have an overgirth, which is a safety girth. If something was to happen, you break your original girth, you have something to keep the saddle in place. And there's a long leather strap that runs and supposed to be threaded through the billets underneath. Obviously, it came loose, and Flavien Prat is able to re-thread it through himself, instead of having to go to the gate guys to do it. I mean, even that, to be hanging up the side of a racehorse and do that, really, these riders are amazing athletes.
1-2 favoritism here on Ways and Means. Going back to her test, were you ultra impressed with that performance that day from her?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the most impressive. I think her debut was sensational. Her allowance race after the Kentucky Oaks was sensational, and I thought that the test was, it's a grade 1 test. It's an amazing race, but it was a little bit more workmanlike for her. But I don't think she was ever really in danger of losing the race.
No, it never looked like she was going to lose. But I will say the last 16th of a mile, her ears were paying. It looked like she was, digging in. I didn't think it was as visually impressive as some of the others, just like you're talking about. But how cool for Seth Klarman. He campaigned the father. He campaigned the mother. He bred this horse. it's always nice to win, but when you're involved at every level of a horse's, from the mating, the planning of the mating, to the raising of the horse, to the naming of the horse.
And to turn out like this,
yeah, I mean, it's
good.
Really, I think that was something that we shouldn't overlook.
From the get-go, we had heard about her a year ago before she ever ran at Saratoga, and the hype was real with her, and she lived up to it almost more than could imagine in that debut, when she just dominated by 12-plus lengths, went straight to the Grade 1 spin away after that performance, injured in that race, and then we didn't see her, and she was always playing kind of catch-up to try to even get to the Kentucky Oaks.
Yeah, I think it's pretty impressive that she even made it to the Kentucky Oaks. And considering that that's not what she wants to do, going a mile and an eighth, she ran extremely well in that race.
Huge odds-on favorite here. Ways and Means coming off that Grade 1 test victory. Can she add the Grade 2 Gallant Bloom against older company here to the resume, and perhaps at least strengthen that case to go on to the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint as potentially the favorite? Let's go upstairs to Chris Griffin for the call.
Nick Style, here's Ways and Means. Pacific Rose, and Hot Fudge. Hot Fudge goes in. All set for the Gallant Bloom. And they're off. Hot Fudge has early speed, and so does Nick Style. And here comes Nick Style towards the inside with Ways and Means. In between horses, that's the top trio. Just off of them, Pacific Rose and the trailer, Sterling Silver. Pretty tightly bunched here as they work up the backstretch, and Nick Style's got the lead. But it's a tenuous one as in between horses. Here comes Ways and Means just cruising along. Now stalking right here from second. Hot Fudge is 3 wide in third. At the rail is Sterling Silver, and now the trailer is Pacific Rose. Less than 4 furlongs to go. 22-3 was the opening quarter mile. Nick Style is only ahead in front with Ways and Means ranging up to the outside, and here comes the move from Ways and Means, just moving right along here, has gotten within a nose of the lead. Under drive now is Hot Fudge being encouraged to move forward. Sterling Silver is right there in fourth, and the trailer Pacific Rose 45-4 for the half-mile time. Nick Style is very game towards the inside, but now Ways and Means is trying to assert, and Ways and Means gets the cue and kicks for home. Ways and Means is extending the margin now. Nick Style is very resilient towards the inside the final furlong. Ways and Means approaches the final 16th, and this is going to be an easy victory here. Ways and Means wins the Grade 2 Gallant Bloom. Nick Style second, then the New York bred Sterling Silver finished third in 1 minute 15.46 seconds.
Ways and Means. Flavien Prat had her close, just off of the speedster Nick Style from the outset, and then draws away in the stretch.
Always traveling better of the two. I mean, listen, Nick Style tried, gave her all she could handle, but Ways and Means was just too good. This was impressive, taking on older horses, good final finishing time. I actually was more impressed with this than I was the test stakes, Jonathan.
No, this is, you look, you watch Flavien. He couldn't have been more confident here. No use of the crop. She did this all on her own here, and I thought she was sensational here. You know, she didn't win by 12 lengths or anything like that. But, man, she seems like she's going the right direction, and I can't wait to see her in that first Saturday in November when she gets on a fast racetrack out on the West Coast.
Exactly what you got to think these connections Chad Brown and company wanted with her. They didn't want to wait that long to have the test to the Breeders' Cup and now have this performance. And it does, as you said, probably looks like she might have taken a move forward here.
I really love this effort. I like the way she did it, and I think Chad Brown's got to be extremely pleased. Of course you want to win these races. They're important races in their own right. It's a $250,000 purse, but it's a prep for the Breeders' Cup, and I think he got everything he wanted out of this prep. She won with something left, didn't get beat up to do it, and a race that you can actually build on.
Oh, he had said, her trainer, Chad Brown, she's in the best shape I've ever seen her coming into this race, and she certainly looked like it off this performance. And, you know, you look ahead, JK, to the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, just the fact that she can be, you know, this tactical and forward against a very quick filly, it's going to help her cause as well.
Absolutely. I mean, and like Richie said, she's, you know, she's run well going longer as well. You know, Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint at 7 furlongs, so that's not going to be a problem for her at all. And the great part about it is that she's not fully mature yet. She's going to grow up over the next 30 days plus, and that's something that that makes her pretty scary in that situation. You know, before she ever ran, Chad said this might be one of the best dirt horses he's ever had, and that's on the heels of Jack Christopher and things like that. I mean, she is super talented, and you got to feel like she's only going to get better.
As for Nick Style, gave it a shot. She's quick. She went forward, but she was not able to open up on this incredibly talented filly here.
No, she ran very well. She may just facing the best female sprinting distaffer, right? She just. But also the other thing I noticed, Nick Style wants to lug in a little bit, doesn't she? You could see Junior always a little bit on the outside rein and had to pull his crop through early. Game effort, but might be facing the best sprinter female we have.
Sharp final time, too, on this sloppy sealed track, 1:15.2. Grade 2 Gallant Bloom winner, Ways and Means. Final stop on the way to the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, and she impresses.
Connect, a Grade 1 winning millionaire, making his mark as a sire with Rattle and Roll, a Grade 1 winning 2-year-old, and multiple graded stakes winner. Graded stakes winning 2-year-olds Hidden Connection and Whitwater's Rand. Graded stakes winning 3-year-old Implicated. Connect, a proven sire in the making. Standing at Lane's End Farm.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
History remembers moments of extraordinary strength, skill, and determination. True greatness is forged by those who fulfill their destiny.
You have to be here to feel the rumble from 40,000 race fans. Mixed with the Pacific breeze, you have to be here to taste extravagance and witness greatness race after race after race. You have to be here to witness unforgettable and to believe the unbelievable. This November, be at Del Mar for an experience that's truly a breed apart.
Back with you on our FS1 coverage. You're watching America's Day at the Races. It's brought to you in part by legendary Claiborne Farm. 100 years of doing the usual unusually well. What a performance we just saw from possibly the best female sprinter in the country. Ways and Means, no doubt about it, performance in this Grade 2 Gallant Bloom victory.
I kind of like the thing that Richie pointed out, that she kind of pins her ears a little bit, which means that she knows what she's doing out there, and she doesn't like not being in front. She wants to roll and she wants to run, and she's doing that.
Yeah, I mean, she gives that little bit of an evil eye, right, at the competition. Like, you want some of this? And give that moment hesitancy. Do I really want to take this one on?
She's reeled off 3 wins in a row now, including back-to-back graded stakes wins. Let's go downstairs to Acacia.
And here with running rider Flavien Prat as Ways and Means. The class really just prevailing today. Flavien, though she has so much size to her, it seems like she just relishes these shorter distances.
Yeah, no, since she's been back to the one turn, she's been her true self, and I mean she showed her talent again today.
Obviously winner of the Grade 1 test last time out, and this a prep going on to the Breeders' Cup. It feels like it was just everything that you'd want from exactly that, a prep onto a bigger race.
Yeah, no, I mean the trip went smooth, and she did everything the right way, and it felt like she didn't overdid it, and so it was hopefully a good setup.
And you've ridden some very fast horses throughout your career. Do you feel like you've kind of reached the bottom of her talent yet, or there's still some more in there that we haven't seen?
Well, sure hope there's more that we haven't seen, but as of right now, she showed plenty of talent, and she responded every time in the right way when it was time to do something good. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Sure, the future is bright. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you very much.
Flavien Prat with the victory, taking the red eye back after riding at Santa Anita yesterday, and was not missing this one today, Greg.
No question. Big mount for him. Will be coming up on championship weekend, and we were just talking about it as that interview was taking place. For Prat, who made the move out to the East Coast here from the West Coast, he did that to be in that conversation at the end of the year for an Eclipse Award, and it looks like he's having that kind of year where it's going to come down probably to him and Irad Ortiz Jr. Not a lot, about $2 million separating them earnings-wise. He's not going to catch Irad Ortiz Jr. in terms of wins, but with a big weekend on Breeders' Cup, he can catch him in terms of earnings, and that might play huge.
I think it's going to come down to who has the better Breeders' Cup weekend, right? They both created incredibly strong resumes to make their case for that Eclipse Award. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but I think it's really cool that we have to have this conversation, that we have two guys that are so talented and have been doing it so consistently well all year.
Are they 1-2, hands down the best right now?
I feel like they are. And that's with all respect to the depth of the talent that we have across the country, but particularly here in New York.
Been fun to watch. Obviously, a historic summer that we followed every step of the way for Prat, setting that mark for stakes wins, graded stakes wins. Just
in
unbelievable
the history of
what he
Saratoga,
accomplished.
Right? The first race meeting there held within weeks of the Battle of Gettysburg. For him to have the most stakes in one meet there, think about that in that context.
Maiden special weight next moved off the turf. 6 furlong sprint here in race 3, and just a few remain, but it's a fascinating race because of the presence of Hurricane Nelson, a horse who's shown so much ability just about every single time out. He's hit the board in all 6 starts, but he's not been able to get the job done. He's got to be a frustrating horse.
Yeah, I would think so, but I think he gets the job done today. I think that if you look at his races, all 6 of his career races are faster than anything else in here's ever run. And all 6 of those races, in my opinion, have been races in which I think he's going to appreciate getting to 6 furlongs. He gets a little tired towards the end of his races. Some might say he's hanging, but really I think the shorter distance, more intent from Manny on this type of racetrack to just send him away from there.
Yeah.
And Mig, you've said it best before, a horse that hangs, one of the best remedies sometimes is just put them on the lead. They don't have to pass anybody.
Let them go on. They've already broken through that plane. They don't have a horse to get to and hang with. They already broken through that plane.
He's been on the lead each of the last 3 starts, and he still has not got it done. He's been a beaten favorite 4 of his 6 starts, including odds on one occasion. Today just might be the right field.
Yeah, I think it's the right field. I think that goes a long way. And I think it's the right distance as well. And the right setup, right? A sloppy racetrack like this to be aggressively sent away from there with Manny Franco, I think he's going to be tough to beat him.
See if today's the day for Hurricane Nelson, if he can finally get it done, get that first win on the resume. A horse who's shown a lot of talent but yet to win. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we'll look back to yesterday and ticket punch to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf for Zulu Kingdom. And trainer Chad Brown, his record remains perfect.
75, hey, $774,000, 775, want to be 60, that help you 60, 75, 760, 60, 75, and now 85, 785, 85, 85, 800, $800,000 package, sir, gotta be 8, now 25, 825,000, 50, $850,000, 50, 850, 75, out on $860,000 and a half, $850,000 in the back of Woodrow, thank you.
And my friend, it will be Dornan to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
Good to have you with us on our Sunday coverage here on Fox Sports 1 here in South Ozone Park, New York. You're watching America's Day at the Races. Grade 2 Gallant Bloom in the books. Impressive performance, ways and means. Of course, yesterday, some big races as well, including the Pilgrim Stakes in the same barn. Chad Brown had a couple of opportunities to punch a ticket for one of his runners to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and Zulu Kingdom does just that, who's now a perfect 3 for 3.
Horse is so versatile, and he handles any kind of ground. He angled out here, and he took this field pretty easily here. Todd Pletcher's runner along the inside had to kind of extricate himself from some traffic, but I think the margin of victory was as close as it was, Jonathan, because Zulu Kingdom kind of got to idle in a little bit. I think he got lost when he hit the front.
Yeah, I mean, they both ran really well, right? Zulu Kingdom ran extremely well. Noble Confessor down on the inside ran extremely well, getting on the grass for the first time. I think, obviously Zulu Kingdom feels like the leader now from the North American contingent, at least, based on his back-to-back performances and who his conditioner is, although it's not a race that Chad has won as many as he's won some of these other ones. But Noble Confessor on the gallop out there, you saw was running. He's not one that I would have a problem with if he showed up in that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf.
No, I thought it was a great effort, and he got to save all the ground, but he did have to, wait just a little bit to get sufficient room. But I still believe Zulu Kingdom shut down a lot when he hit the front. Last time he got through inside, and that'll keep a horse motivated because they have pressure from the outside. When he's out there by himself, it looked to me like he said, oh, my job's over.
4th win in this race for trainer Chad Brown. So it's on to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf for Zulu Kingdom, now perfect 3 for 3. And bringing Acacia here. And Acacia, Chad Brown had said he thinks this horse, obviously yielding going yesterday, probably going to be firm going at Del Mar. He thinks the way this horse moves, firm, he'll probably be better over.
Yeah, I completely agree. But it's a nice benefit with a horse coming over from Europe with one that did start off on soft turf. And soft turf is typically in Europe much softer than what we'd have ever even run over here in America. And then did handle firm turf beautifully at Saratoga last time in the With Anticipation. So he has versatility. But I thought it was interesting to Richie's point about how he really did seem to get to looking around a little bit and to idle, kind of pulling himself up without any company on the front end. Probably showing in that With Anticipation that sneaking up the rail like he did was really kind of the best move because he didn't have an opportunity to do that. And before the With Anticipation, I had spoken to Chad Brown, who told me that he's a bit of a curious horse, that he tends to look around at what's surrounding him, taking everything in, maybe lacking a little bit of focus still. And so I think that was evident last time out. And look, it was only his 3rd start, his 2nd start here in America. He's still undefeated. And with these 2-year-olds at this time of the year, you see so much progression from race to race as they not only develop physically, but develop mentally as well. So that's just something to keep an eye on. But I'm sure, just based off of those comments, something that his connections are well aware of, a horse that certainly has a lot of ability, but I thought the top 2 finishers impressive and ones that you do want to watch moving forward, Greg.
Look, thank you, Acacia. We got to give this horse credit. I mean, it's just continually getting it done now, three starts, but with these 2-year-olds, as Acacia just said, even from this start until what we're going to see championship weekend, there can be a lot of progression.
Yeah, they're young horses. They're going to continue to develop and improve. I just love the fact that he handled very soft ground in Europe. He handled firm ground in Saratoga. He handled softish ground here yesterday. And I do think he pulls up. And anybody who questions whether horses actually will pull up, go to YouTube and watch, put in the Chicken Flamingo. Buck Passer opened up 2, turning for home, pulled himself up to a walk. Abe's Hope blew by him. And he looked up and he said, oh, there's something else to do. And he took off and caught him. You'll never see anything like that. That's a true case of when a horse says, well, my job's over. I hit the front.
Let's move on to race 3. 6 furlongs again off the turf, this maiden special weight. And there's, Mig, I'll let you say it, Pourquoi Pas?
Pourquoi Pas?
That's 7-2. We always turn to Mig for pronunciations from different languages to become the expert. Got to deal with a tough one here, obviously, in Hurricane Nelson, who's been the bridesmaid so far, but has some big races to go back to. Let's go to Acacia.
And we'll take a look at the 2 layoff runners, starting off with Pourquoi Pas, which means why not, as this one has not run since February down at Gulfstream, where it didn't break the quickest from the rail, but kind of hustling up on the inside to maintain position. And then when he was checked back and shuffled back, just never re-rallied from that. Clearly seems something went wrong in that race, since we didn't see him since that February start. So coming back, just making his 2nd race now as a 4-year-old, and looking at the DRF Clocker report, was was training in company with Back to Gridlock, who was another layoff runner who we saw run the other day and finished a rather disappointing 4th. But this one has been showing more speed and outworking that other layoff foe. And from a physical perspective, I really like what I see from this guy. He is big, he's imposing, he does have a little bit of a turf hoof, and he is coming back as a sprint and entered for the grass. So maybe just to get one under his feet, but sometimes horses of that build will handle a sealed track. But he looks great coming back off the layoff. And the other layoff runner, also for Chad Brown, is the 11 Index Fund. And I did see this one in that August race of last year where this horse just looked asleep throughout all the preliminaries. Irad Ortiz, who will be back aboard again today as he's a main track only runner picking up the mount, really had to work to get him going in the warm-ups. I'll keep my eyes on him out on track. He looks pretty laid back still, just again in the paddock. And sometimes gelding can just really help with horses that lack some focus. I do think he might need a race to just tighten up a bit, bring it all together as well. He looks good overall, but I think that maybe mental desire is a little bit of something that's lacking, and a horse that has clearly been a little bit tricky to keep on the racetrack, Greg.
Well, he's intriguing, coming back, main track only here for Chad Brown, long time away, but this should be Hurricane Nelson's day, but we've said that, the last 2, 3, 4, 5 starts for him. We'll see if he can get it done. Our coverage here on FS1 coming to a close. You can catch this race, rest of the card, over on our FS2 coverage after this timeout. Next on FS1, it's NHRA qualifying, St. Louis. We did get to see Ways and Means. Was it enough to make her the favorite as she moves on to the Breeders' Cup? Filly and Mare Sprint, she does it impressively. In the Grade 2, Gallant Bloom, back-to-back graded stakes wins, 3 wins in a row now for this uber-talented 3-year-old filly. For trainer Chad Brown with Flavien Prat in the orange, we'll see you over on FS2 after a break.
Deep in the heart of horse country, from these Kentucky hills has sprung a legacy rivaled by few. From the all-time greats of yesterday to the breed-shaping bloodlines of today, our roots hold strong with the promise of tomorrow. For over a century, our passion has guided us to where we stand and everything we stand for. Claiborne Farm, the tradition continues.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got them. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
The rumbling started early and only intensified, with performances that sent shockwaves across the nation. At the center of it all,
Epicenter is at the top of the 3-year-old class in the Run Happy Travers.
Epicenter, 3-year-old champion by Not This Time. Coolmore America, home of champions.
Grayson Jockey Club Research Foundation was formed in 1940 with a simple goal: to raise funds for research to enhance the health and soundness of horses. Since then, we've provided millions of dollars to hundreds of projects at universities around the world, leading to major advances in welfare. Our process of selecting and producing peer-reviewed research has become the trusted industry standard. And with your help, we'll be here for many years to come, supporting the health and wellness of all horses.
Good to be with you on our Fox Sports 2 coverage. You're watching America's Day at the Races. It's brought to you in part by America's Best Racing. For the love of the race, visit americasbestracing.net. Today we're up to race 3 on this Sunday card here in South Ozone Park, New York. Belmont at the Big A. Greg Wolf, Jonathan Kinchin, Richie Migliori, and we just saw Ways and Means look incredibly impressive in the Grade 2 Gallant Bloom.
Yeah, she was outstanding, and I think that last summer we thought we would be saying Oh, she's possibly going to be the favorite in the Breeders' Cup. I think we thought last year it was going to be in that Juvenile Fillies, but now it seems like it might be in the Filly Mare Sprint.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, right, that she didn't get her Grade 1 victory till this summer in Saratoga, almost a victim of her own ability and what she showed first time. Had a couple things go wrong, but she seems like she's right back on the beam here.
That's the way you want to go in to championship weekend with a statement performance like that. She certainly stamped herself as a leading contender, if not the one to beat going into that race. Of course, we'll see what happens next weekend. Some other racetracks across the country. This third race coming up next. 2 minutes to post here. 6 furlongs taken off the turf. We're off the turf all day today, including that Miss Grillo, which has been rescheduled for next Sunday, October 6th, in that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf Division. Hurricane Nelson, 6-5 favorite, and there he is. It's hard to believe he has not broken his maiden at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking, right? But I think that's a couple of situations. He's dealt with some tough fields, faced some tough horses, but also he's also run into some longer distances, right? 7 furlongs, 6.5. This is an opportunity to run 6. It might not seem like much, but it can make a huge difference.
Interestingly enough, it's the first time he's ever run this short, 6 furlongs, and he's natural speed in a 4-horse field in the slop. I have a hard time seeing past him. Sometimes it's just as simple for me as, who would I really want to ride here? And I'd really want to ride him and make sure I threw kickback at everybody I could.
Obviously, he's got quality, but now 6 starts where he's hit the board in all 6, but is yet to win. Maybe just finding the right field today as we go down to Acacia Clement.
Oh, Greg, with Hurricane Nelson, he's been one of those horses throughout that just every time runs his race, he shows talent, he has speed, all good things that you want to see in a racehorse, just has not been able to seal the deal. But I think what Richie said about him cutting back in distance a bit to the 6 furlongs and the shortest distance he's actually ever run really should be to his benefit. I had actually written in my notes last time in a race that it looked on paper like he was supposed to win, that the 7 furlongs was a bit of a stretch for him. He's small, he's as compact and short coupled as you can get with a sprinter, and a relatively quiet warm-up with the pony out on the track. That is very typical of Hurricane Nelson. He's one that just does it on the racetrack, and Manny Franco knows him so well, and you can imagine he will be hustling him early out from the gate, and hopefully he can use that speed to take him every step of the way. The number 10, Chouchou d'Avant, will debut here after being purchased at the Arcana yearling sale for just over the U.S. equivalent of $100,000, and Kenny McPeak signing the ticket for that one. I do always take an extra look at the horses that Kenny buys, and intriguing with this one being purchased overseas, but just much more of a turf pedigree, much more of a turf build to him as well. But he is a big, solid colt too. I think staying in here, maybe can grab a share, maybe they learn some things about him, but one to really kind of bring him together and get some fitness out of it and some experience as well. But I will say, Kendrick Carmo shook him away from the pony, gave him a strong warm-up, and he's a lovely mover out on this track. Greg?
Thank you, Acacia. 4-horse field with the scratches and the surface switch here in this third, and we'll see if Hurricane Nelson today is just finally the day. As we look at that first-time starter, there's Hurricane Nelson. Can this horse just break clean, get to the front, and just keep on going?
I mean, it feels like he is the speed, and he seems to break extremely well, barring one effort. That was in the Affirm Stakes at Gulfstream, where he didn't, he got kind of off to a bumpy beginning, but normally he breaks. When the doors move, he moves.
Yeah, I mean, I would think Manny needs to ride this horse like he's on Secretariat. Just pop away from there, open up, pretend you're on the best horse in here. Don't worry that he's run 6 times and been beat. Just pretend that you're 3-4, 1-5, and just ride him like he's the best.
If you're Manny, Mig, are you concerned, like trying to think, I got to conserve some, because he has always backed up when he's had the lead?
I think you let a horse use their natural weapon, which is whatever their natural gait is. He's fast. I think it's a mistake to try to rate speed horses. Not that you have to send him off his feet. Let him run.
3-5 favorite. Opportunity number 7 for Hurricane Nelson to get that first win. Favored again here in this third. Let's go to Chris Griffin for the call.
Here's Index Fun. Goes in. All set. Have one acting up there towards the inside. Now more settled. And they're off. Hurricane Hurricane Nelson gets the first call, is hard sent, and Hurricane Nelson now clears off, is up by a full length and a half. Index Fun is now going to stalk from second. At the rail there is Pourquoi Pas. The trailer, Chouchou Davon. As they work up the backstretch, they're chasing Hurricane Nelson, and Hurricane Nelson is in front, is still up by a length and a half. Index Fun is watching the action here from second, less than 4 furlongs to travel. Right there in third is Pourquoi Pas, now moving just awkwardly into that turn. Now turns around and now gets steadied and into that far turn with Chouchou Davon, 22.54 for the opening quarter mile. Hurricane Nelson is still in front with Index Fun and Chouchou Davon, and now straightening up there is Pourquoi Pas, but is tailed off and just traveling a little awkwardly at the back end of the field. They reach the top of the stretch, and Hurricane Nelson now kicks away. Index Fun is not going anywhere, and the front two are well clear. It is Hurricane Nelson and Index Fun. They sprint for home and approach that final furlong. Hurricane Nelson still with that length margin. Index Fun with every chance to run the rival down. Hurricane Nelson is almost there. Index Fun is trying. Hurricane Nelson still up by a length. Hurricane Nelson gets the score. Hurricane Nelson over Index Fun. For the back there, too, Chouchou Davon and Pourquoi Pas in 1 minute 10 and 1.
Some anxious moments certainly in this race, but this time, finally, 7th time the charm for Hurricane Nelson. He gets that maiden win.
Never an anxious moment, Wolfie. Never an anxious moment. I told you this horse was going to win, and he did. Right, Mig?
Index Fun actually looked to me coming to the quarter pole like he might be traveling a little better of the two. Irad looked very confident on Index Fun for Chad Brown, Klarovich Stable, but I love this subtle little race riding here. Manny Franco, this is what I think is the art of race riding. He just came out to meet the challenge. He didn't come out and take his ground. He didn't do anything illegal. He just made sure that his horse would see Index Fun coming to him and make Index Fun think about him a little bit. Just come out to meet him.
And look, runner-up finish for Index Fun, who's not able to run this horse down, but not a bad effort off a long time away for that horse.
That was a really good effort. And you know, he had to play Hurricane Nelson's game. He was the one put in the position of having to chase him and keep him honest. I think a really good effort by both the winner and the runner-up, but Hurricane Nelson gets it done in his 7th start. He's never been off the board.
First win of his career, 3-5. Able to get that first W. Christophe Clement, Manny Franco, Reeves Thoroughbred Racing, and probably a collective sigh of relief that he's able to finish this one.
Well, it's got to be frustrating. You know, you have a horse who's running winning-type races, but still not getting their picture taken. It's got to be frustrating, and I'm sure that Christophe and the Reeves are excited to finally get this horse in the winner's circle.
I was not confident coming to the quarter pole. When Index Fun was in that close proximity to him and looked like he was traveling, because Hurricane Nelson hasn't shown that finishing power, right? He did today, though.
Christophe Clement's made that call 6 times before. He has said, no, we hit the board. We didn't get it. This time he gets to make that call and said, yeah, we're going to get our picture taken here with Hurricane Nelson. So good for him. Graduate and get that maiden score. Does so in 1:10-1 under Manny Franco for the victory. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we'll look back to yesterday's Grade 3 Vosburg. Will it be sprint or will it be dirt mile for Mufasa, who was impressive with a 4 1/4 length win?
There's a big, bold, beautiful world waiting to be explored by you and your friends, of course. But not just any friends, the best of friends. The kind of friends who let you do you. Because in this world, it's positive vibes only. And when you get in the zone here, you stay a while. These aren't just good times, they're the best of times. And your time is now. So come explore. Resorts World.
Welcome back to America's Day at the Races. Glad to have you with us on this Sunday afternoon as we see Hurricane Nelson break his maiden here in the third, and pleased to be joined by his trainer, Christophe Clematis. Christophe, the speed, the talent, we knew it was there all along. How rewarding to see him finally get the victory today.
No, it's a lot of fun. I mean, we've been knocking on the door. It's been a little bit frustrating, and we were going to try the turf today, as you know, and it worked out on the wet track, so I'm very happy.
A very good ride from Manny Franco as well, the way he kind of drifted out a bit, rationing out the speed. He seemed like he did everything right.
No, I agree, but I mean, I knew beforehand that Manny Franco was a top-class rider, and obviously the speed is always dangerous on a wet track.
Well, yesterday, a big day for the stable as well, with Farbridge winning back-to-back Grade 1s, taking the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. How did he come out of the race? What did you see from him this morning?
He looked good. He came out of the race in really good order. He's clean-legged, he's sound. He'll go back to Miguel, who took care of him all the time. And to Saratoga, he will have access to the turf over there, and we'll get him ready for the Breeders' Cup.
What a nice performance yesterday. It showed that versatility, that talent once again.
And absolutely. We have 3 Grade 1 on the grass in New York. He finished third in the Manhattan. He won the Sword Dancer. He won the Joe Hirsch. So he's obviously a major turf horse. And it's fun to get him ready for the Breeders' Cup.
A lot of fun indeed. And congratulations here.
Thank you so much.
Hurricane Nelson, now a winner, Greg.
Yeah, got to feel good to get this horse, finally get that picture taken. And, back to Farbridge for a second as we look at Hurricane Nelson going to the winner's circle. He's probably the leader of this division right now, isn't he, off those back-to-back Grade 1s?
I would think so. I mean, obviously the division, if you're referring to the division as older turf horse, then I think that Carl Spackler, if he can win the Grade 1 at Keeneland going a mile, obviously he kind of throws his name into the hat after winning the 4-star Dave. But yeah, with two Grade 1s on the turf, he's definitely in the mix right now.
And yeah, there was some question, was he going to stay here, train on dirt up to the Breeders' Cup, or go to Saratoga and get on grass? He'll go to Miguel. Saratoga and on turf training up to the Breeders' Cup now. And we'll wait and see. Obviously, the Europeans usually story of that race, filly and mare turf, is who's going to show up from overseas.
Yeah, I mean, it always is. The Euros always bring in a strong contingent. But, I love him going back to Saratoga. I think horses do so well there this time of year, the cooler nights, cooler mornings. And also, he has the ability to get on the turf course at least once a week there. So for at least his speed works, he's going to get to work on the grass as well.
We'll move on to race 4 coming up. And this 4th race, $10,000 claiming group, 7-furlong sprint here on the main track. And Prince James opens up right now for Ray Handel with Dylan Davis as a 2-1 favorite off a disappointing performance last time out.
Yeah, he was disappointing last time, but he's got some races. He's a consistent type. He just kind of shows up, runs similar numbers all the time. I thought he was a little bit interesting, but not at 2-1.
People probably seeing that wet track win performance. Maybe it's just early money, too. We'll check back in just a little bit in that 10,000 claiming race. Let's go back to Saturday again and the Grade 3 Vosburg and this performance from Mufasa, who State's debut, a little bit disappointing, but then the last 2 starts has really turned it around.
Miggy, he got that really fast number at Colonial, and I never really trusted that number. It kind of popped up out of nowhere. I trust it now after this performance.
Yeah, especially the way he was able to stalk, pounce, and finish. And I love the way he looked coming through the wire. Sometimes horses win by open lengths, but it's more a function of the horses behind them struggling. That wasn't the case here. This horse's stride never deteriorated. He stayed in that perfect beat all the way through the wire. Loved the way he reaches. This was a really nice performance.
97 Beyer in the win. And, yeah, you look, there's concerns, obviously. A win at Colonial. How good was it? He did beat a very nice horse named Repo Rocks.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with who he beat and it being at Colonial. It's the fact that the figure just jumped up and was so fast, I didn't necessarily trust it. But with his performance here, now you can trust both of those numbers. And we've talked about it. The sprint division is not the sprint division of last year or the year prior to that when you had Elite Power to deal with. It's a little bit more wide open, and it feels like Mufasa could throw his hat into the ring. I mean, look, I wouldn't pretend to know what it's like to own a horse like this, but I would think the sprint would be where I would go with him based on his last 2 races.
8 for 10 in Chile before he came here, and a lot of that was at longer distances. Tough decision here.
I think it's a tough decision, but he's versatile, so it does. I think he stays the mile no problem. I'm kind of with Jonathan though. I think that he would be better going 6. He's quick enough. He puts himself in the race. And it's, you know, we see so many horses from South America, usually Argentine breds, that have success. It's nice to see a Chilean bred have this kind of success.
It's gotten very, very good. Obviously, it's shown that quite a bit in Chile, and now proving it here on U.S. soil. Let's bring in Maggie Wolfendale for the first time today. And what did you like that you saw yesterday with Mufasa?
That he had gears, Greg. That's what good sprinters do. You know, they have that high cruising speed early where they can be tactical and close to a pace. And then when the rider shakes them up, as Gerardo Ortiz did yesterday, they accelerate away from their competition. And that was the most, I think, impressive thing from Mufasa in that victory in the Grade 3 Vosburg. And it sounds like, as this is a win and you're in, all expenses paid berth into that Breeders' Cup Sprint, that's the way they're going to go. I understand the conversation you guys having, because in his native Chile, he was undefeated anywhere from 1.125 miles or less. It's when they asked him to go 1.25 miles, he couldn't quite go that far. But I think, you know, in the high caliber types of fields that we get for the Breeders' Cup, I think the sprint is where he's best. He showed it last time in that race at Colonial and here yesterday. So not only does he have the best name in racing, he's also a very, very nice horse.
Yeah, great name does not hurt. We'll see how he fares and what race connections ultimately wind up deciding. I think a lot of it will be who's going to line up in the race, where he's going to be drawn, all that. But he's a versatile horse.
Well, he's got the right kind of conditioner as well. Nacho Correas is so good at identifying what his horses are going to excel at. I'm sure they'll make the right choice. I'm looking forward to it. I think he's definitely, his hat is in the ring, is one of the top sprinters here.
And look, this year, we got a lot of wide open divisions, not established superstar runners in some of these divisions, and the sprint's probably one of them that's wide open right now. You could say the same for the dirt mile.
Right. I would, you know, we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously, I thought National Treasure or a horse like Muth would be interesting if they were to win yesterday and come back and maybe one of them run in the dirt mile, but they both didn't run that great. Yeah. So it feels like an opening for the dirt mile, but the sprint as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the sprint's more money, so that might come into the equation as well.
Could play a little factor. We'll see that decision to come as we're closing in. We're really just a few weeks away. Obviously another big weekend here next weekend as we take a look at the Big 8 to the Breeders' Cup and what lies ahead. Next weekend, Futurity, Champagne for Zet, and that rescheduled Miss Grillo for that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf.
I love, you know, the 2-year-olds, right? We're always focused on today, but we're looking to the future, and the 2-year-olds are the future. And last year, we had pretty strong representation from the East Coast in the Breeders' Cup.
Little future stars feel the Breeders' Cup. They have all their 2-year-old races on Friday. We'll have a lot of ours next weekend.
Yeah, we're going to preview a couple of those races as well a little bit later on the show. There's a look at High Heat. Gerardo Ortiz Jr. look to pick up his second winner on the card, teaming up with a Wayne Potts barn here, 7-2 on this horse from the rail. Pick 6 rescheduled for next week. We'll be back.
Drain the Clock will win and win by as much as he wants. He'll win by 6 in the end.
It is Drain the Clock who will bound home the winner in the Bayshore. Drain the Clock, Jackie's Warrior, a terrific finish in the Woody Stevens that goes to Drain the Clock by a head.
You have to be here to feel the rumble from 40,000 race fans. Mixed with the Pacific breeze, you have to be here to taste extravagance and witness greatness race after race after race. You have to be here to witness unforgettable and to believe the unbelievable. This November, be at Del Mar for an experience that's truly a breed apart.
Twirling Candy, proving Lane's End's stallion-making tradition. Twirling Candy has seen success on the track and sales rate, siring multiple Grade 1 winners and millionaires, including Exalted, Beyond Brilliant, Gear Jockey, and reaching 7-figure yearling and 2-year-old sales. By the legendary Candy Ride. Twirling Candy, a leader of his generation.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
Thanks for tuning in to America's Day at the Races with live coverage here from Belmont at the Big A as we have horses here in the paddock for today's fourth race. It is a 10,000 claimer going the 7 furlongs, and we'll begin with the horse taking all the early money, and that is number 3, Prince James, for trainer Ray Handel as 2 back. He and Dylan Davis stole the show and put on the upset at 11.5 to 1 at this level, at this distance, over a similar racetrack up at Saratoga in the Slob. Now, the speed was good that day. Not necessarily, I think, by all means, we have a pretty fair racetrack this time around, but I do look for Dylan to be aggressive with Prince James, who, when this horse is nice and settled, he seems to do his better running out on the track. Sometimes he can be a little bit cantankerous, to say the least. He does seem very settled here in the paddock, but physically looks tremendous, as he typically does. But I do think the conditions are right for him to take another one. As we'll move on to towards the outside with number 8, Optic Way. Now, he's going to be a turn back in here, which I can't say I'm the biggest fan of, because I don't think he's quite fast enough to get to the lead where he likes to do his best running, going the 7 furlongs. But I can't deny the fact that this horse looks so much better than what he did earlier on this year. Gustavo Rodriguez will take him and send him out for the 2nd time in his barn. His weight looks phenomenal. This is a horse that has always looked a little bit lopsided / weak behind, and he has evened him out. He is so much stronger. It looks as though he has rectified whatever issues this horse had maybe struggled with in the past in his hind end. This is the best Optic Way has ever looked. We'll see if he can translate it to the racetrack. Like I said, Greg, I feel like 7/8 is a little bit too short for him.
All right, Maggie, thank you. We'll get to the post parade coming up. Let's go back to high heat. Again, the mount of Arad Ortiz Jr. and was last seen at Monmouth. We're going to show you that race back on September 15th. Just missed by a neck. Actually took the lead in the stretch and gets run down.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a horse that I thought ran well enough. Got a nice speed figure, but I just thought was going to be overbet in here. Wayne Potts is, I think, off to 4 for 14 at the meet so far. You get Irad. I thought this horse was going to be overbet, but at 7 to 2, high heat suddenly makes a little bit more sense.
Worried about 7 furlongs, Mick?
I think it is a little bit of a concern, especially from the rail. I think he's committed to having to go, particularly coming out of sharp pace 6 furlong races at Monmouth Park. 7/8 is a big concern for me.
7 to 2 from that inside slot. You'd expect got to try and be sharp, especially where he's drawn and this natural speed he has. Here's Optic Way. Another one that was forward going longer at 1 1/8. So distance should not be an issue here, cutting back to 7 furlongs as we look back to August 21st.
Yeah, this is the horse I'm going to pick. I think that this horse showed speed going 9 furlongs, probably a little bit too fast, or too far for him, excuse me. Now cuts back to the 7, drawn towards the outside, tactical speed on a sloppy racetrack. Lots of things to like here from him.
I like him a lot too, and it's interesting, right? We're up here on the set, so we're watching horses on TV, and I'm looking at the horses in the paddock on television going, man, this 8 horse looks amazing. And then Maggie comes on and starts talking about him, and I couldn't get past how good he looked from what I could see on TV, and I'm just glad that Maggie actually reinforced what I thought I was seeing.
It's been a long time since he's won. And when he runs, he's forward. He's probably not going to have the lead in here, is he?
No, I don't think so, but I think he's well drawn. I think he'll be stalking from the outside. And it is a concern, right? 8 wins, 16 seconds. I really don't like when I see horse accumulating so many more seconds than wins. But listen, I thought he ran well last time. I like the turn back. I like his draw. And I was just struck with his physical appearance.
That's his pilot, young Jose Gomez, former Eclipse Award winner, his outstanding apprentice. trying to navigate his way through these next few years here as a journeyman rider in the toughest colony there is at Saratoga, of course, in the game, and then you're still dealing with a lot of the top guys here at this meet.
You got to dig in. The one thing a rider can control is their work ethic. You can't control if and when you're going to be given an opportunity. All you can do is work as hard as you possibly can to get that opportunity and then be prepared for it when it comes and make the most of it.
He'll hop aboard here. Riders up 5-1 on Optic Way for Gustavo Rodriguez as we start our post parade with High Heat and Irad Ortiz Jr.
Yeah, High Heat, like we talked about, I think Irad didn't take as much money as I thought he was going to do in this spot.
Prince of Joy, big price next door, 3 for $43 lifetime.
Yeah, we just have to really turn it around from the current form.
Next door, the favorite, Dylan Davis for Ray Handel on Prince James.
Yes, got some back races. He's consistently runs okay. Does not deserve to be the favorite here, in my opinion.
28-1 here. Goldini, Orlando Noda Barn.
Yeah, turning back in distance, another one that's just going to have to find a race we haven't seen in a while from him.
Here's Hatch with Ricardo Santana Jr.
Yeah, I just really didn't like this horse in there. He's had a couple of opportunities to run for 10,000 up at Saratoga and wasn't able to win for Linda or Rob Atras.
Afternoon heat, David Jacobson, second off the claim.
Yeah, making the second start for David Jacobson. Feels like he's going to also have to improve.
Katie Davis rocked the weekend off since late July.
Yeah, just there's some back races, but as of late, this horse just hasn't run well enough to win this one.
Here's the one we were talking about, cutting back from 1 1/8 Optic Way.
I think he's very interesting. I think he's well drawn towards the outside, and I like to turn back for him.
And outside, classic Mark, Joe Sharp, and Christopher Elliott.
Yes, horse has not run that well for Joe Sharp. I didn't really see too many excuses in his last 2 starts.
Thatcher Field 5 minutes away from this 4th in this 7-furlong contest coming up. Track stats, take advantage. Bet smarter, win bigger. Weekly Aqueduct track trends, stats, and betting insights. Track Stats has the answers. For more stats on tracks across the country, visit NYRABets.com. So back to Prince James. And, Mig, there were so many good storylines at Saratoga this summer, but Dylan Davis is right up there near the top.
Dylan really matured into a race rider, and that's the highest compliment I can pay a rider. There's a lot of jockeys. When you're a race rider, you are dedicated to your craft, and Dylan has become mature, consistent. You could see his preparation is there. It's been fun to watch his evolution. I got to compete with his father, Robbie, who was a tremendous rider. And I put Dylan right up there on a par with his dad. That's high praise.
That next leap, obviously, it's so minute. When you're very good riders and then getting to that next elite level, was it, you think, just preparation for him to put him over the top, or what was it?
Well, to me, Dylan has always had the ability. Sometimes he was a little bit inconsistent. The rider you got on Thursday, you might not get on Friday. I've seen a consistency in him, and to me, that is somebody that has matured and understands how he needs to prepare and approach it every day.
I think one thing that I noticed about the success that Dylan had this summer is what it's going to mean to his business moving forward, right? He won the stake for Charlie Appleby a few weeks back, and then he rode Silver Knot yesterday in a Grade 1 for Charlie Appleby. If you have one of the greatest trainers in the world in Charlie Appleby, paying attention to the success that you had at Saratoga and giving you opportunities, you'd like to think that that's going to impact his decision, his business at all facets. I'm interested to see the Breeders' Cup, what happens there. If if someone comes open, do they say, let's grab Dylan? The meet that he had this summer, and he ends up, riding some horse in Del Mar for a California trainer.
Well, listen, winning the stake, the Woodward, for Todd Pletcher yesterday, right? He's put himself in a position where he does have the attention of these big-time trainers, and now it's up to him and his agent to kick those doors open and get those opportunities on the major stages.
He forced everyone to take notice how great he delivered all summer long at the most competitive meet there is. He's on Prince James here, 3-1. Favoritism, though, has moved to that one right there, that 9-horse. With young Christopher Elliott, son of Stuart Elliott, who rode Smarty Jones to the first 2 legs of a Triple Crown, the Pennsylvania bred. Let's go back down to Maggie.
Yeah, and you guys talking about Dylan Davis. I mean, he grabbed the attention of possibly, the biggest outfit in the world in Godolphin as he rode for them yesterday in that Grade 1 Joe Hirsch Turf Classic aboard Silver Knot. But yeah, I can't speak enough about how impressed I've been with Dylan. Same with all of us here on the program, as we'll take a look at Irad Ortiz's mount, though, and that is number 1, High Heat, in here down on the rail. He was tenacious, I thought, last time out at Monmouth, second start for the Wayne Potts barn, who they're having a pretty good meet so far. I just have never been a fan of this horse beyond 6 furlongs. He is very small, very short coupled. Irad is giving him a very big warm up out there, indicating that he's going to leave that inside post position running today. But I just can't say I feel that confident about him going the 7 furlongs. And we'll check in with number 5. That's Hatch. He is actually a reclaim for trainer Jamie Begg. Ricardo Santana, we've seen just making a difference with a lot of horses. He is someone that has been aggressive with riding here this past month, and with limited opportunities is really making the best of them. And Hatch, he gave a really big warm-up to. He woke him up, which this horse as of late has been very, very quiet and docile, at least back in the paddock. And I like the fact that he gave him a big gallop over to the backside. We'll see how he does. He stayed glued to the rail last time when he finished second behind Charging Arrow, just in chase mode throughout. So look for him to be forward. But again, he's never shown the ability to get to the lead, though, with Ricardo. We'll see how that goes. His number 9 is a horse taking some money. Wide open board right now, 3-7 to 2 shots. Classic Mark didn't really grab me back in the paddock. He is the lone horse in here, as Richie often points out, the horses who have the mud tail, so their tail kind of braided and tied up to make sure that they don't take on any excess weight from the mud that will stick to them while running over this type of surface. Joe Sharp does typically do that. He's old school. He grew up in West Virginia, the Mid-Atlantic area, so that's what a lot of trainers used to do there. But Classic Mark, once again, now he does, in his last 2 starts, has moved beautifully in the warm-ups, but I agree with Jonathan. His last 2 races leave something to be desired, so I thought he was very disappointing, too, back when the beaten favorite and controlling, albeit, yes, pressured, but not the quickest fractions, though, either, Greg.
About to load up here as we look at Irad Ortiz Jr. on High Heat. And Mig, you wanted to point something out with one of these runners, a little old school move you noticed.
Yeah, just following up on what Maggie talked about, horses' tail getting tied up in the mud. The old school guys used to believe that they would pick up enough weight that it would throw their stride off, and easily they could pick up 5 or more pounds of mud in a long flowing tail, so that you would see them, wrap the tail up. Sometimes they would use vet wrap, and it would just almost look like a nub of a tail because all the hair was tied up underneath. Frustrating for a groom, I'm sure, because if you get a horse that needs to be tailed, the gate crew would have to take that out, and you go, man, I did all that work, and now the gate crew's undoing it. But you don't see it that often anymore, but I like it when you get to see it.
Favoritism has gone to the inside, and not a surprise with the man who's aboard with Irad Ortiz Jr. on High Heat for Wayne Potts. And we'll see how sharp this one is out of the gate. Speed, big part of this one's arsenal for the 6-year-old. As he steps in, 10,000 claiming race at 7/8 of a mile coming up here in this 4th on our Sunday coverage here on Fox Sports 2. Let's go to Chris Griffin.
Prince James. Goldini, Optic Way, Classic Mark. Is in. All set. And they're off. High Heat breaks well from the inside draw, and there's Hatch in between horses is the gray, but Optic Way is going to be quickest, and Optic Way is up by a full length now, and Optic Way gets right over to the rail, is now clear by a length and a half. Hatch starts to move in closer from that second grouping as they are really stacked up in behind the leader, Optic Way. Hatch has joined the leader now as Afternoon Heat is going to be 3 wide. Rock the Weekend's going to be 4 wide, 5 wide. No choice. It's Classic Mark out in the far outside. At the rail, it's High Heat is in the yellow silks. Is to the inside here, Prince of Joy, losing a touch of ground there, Prince James, and the trailer is Goldini, who's only 2 off the lead as they are very tightly bunched. The whole entire field goes into the far turn together. They went 23 seconds flat for the opening quarter mile. Optic Way with the nose in front. Hatch is ready to pounce towards the outside. Classic Mark has been wide, but ranging up 4 wide, and here comes the move from Classic Mark. Afternoon Heat is trying to keep up, is in between horses. Also moving forward is High Heat, is right there in 5th. Prince of Joy is trying to rally on from the back as they reach the top of the stretch. Hatch is the leader who starts to kick for home. It's Hatch who's in front. Classic Mark with every shot to run by this leader, and now Classic Mark gets the cue. Hatch is not going away. High Heat is trying to join them in those yellow blinkers, and Afternoon Heat. They approach the final 16th, and these two are noses apart. To the inside, it's Hatch. To the outside, Classic Mark. To the inside, Hatch is still finding more. Hatch is now a neck in front. Hatch with a game victory. Hatch wins it over Classic Mark. Then came High Heat and Afternoon Heat. The late run rocked the weekend in 1 minute 24.58 seconds.
Last 3 starts from Rob Atras to Linda Rice, now to Jamie Begg, and Hatch gets the 4th win in 32 career starts.
I did not like this horse in here. I thought Hatch has had plenty of opportunities, and Hatch ran really well here. Took a lot of heat, held off the 9 Classic Mark the entire length of the stretch.
And it looked like Classic Mark might have had his measure. He was lingering on his left lead, Hatch. When he got to his right lead, that's what saved him. He found a bit more once he got over to his right lead and was able to hold off Classic Mark, who had every opportunity to run him down.
It really looked like he was going to get the better of that mid-stretch, but unable to get by. It's Hatch at 7-2. First off the claim win for Jamie Begg. Ricardo Santana Jr. here with his 5-year-old. 5.916 finish.
Ricardo off to a great start, I thought, to this meet.
If Ricardo could take the cold, he should really consider riding in New York for the winter. I think he'll get a lot of opportunities. He's strong. He's aggressive. He would fit in the winter scene here, and I think he would really make a big impact.
It's not exactly warm in Hot Springs in December. He'll be okay with it.
I've been to both places. I've ridden in both places in the winter. That's Palm Springs compared to here in the winter.
Hatch at 7-2. Santana Jr. aboard for the win. Again for the Jamie Begg barn. 4th career win for this 5-year-old. And nice job holding off Classic Mark as well for trainer Joe Sharp. 5.916, 7-2 on your winner on this sloppy sealed racetrack here on our Sunday action from South Ozone Park, New York.
He always showed up. From June at 2 and through 2 championship seasons, week after week after week of consecutive works. That's toughness. He always showed off. You know all about those 4 G1s. Here's his maiden on the Derby undercard. That's brilliance. Now his yearlings are at the sales. That's opportunity. Essential quality. Showtime.
Back with you on our Fox Sports 2 coverage. Sunday action from Belmont at the Big 8, brought to you where you can play it all at Naira Bets. Go to nairabets.com and bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Ricardo Santana Jr. and Hatch for the Jamie Big Barn. Take the 4th on the card.
Yeah, nice strong ride by Ricardo. Always seems to get a little bit more, and he was under pressure. The whole field was within 3 or 4 lengths of each other at one point, and it looks right here as though he might get run down from the outside. But watch when he gets to his right lead, right in there. You can see how Ricardo subtly shifted his weight, and that horse got to his right lead, and that's what secured the victory, finding a bit more.
I mean, look how much more Ricardo's moving, how much more torque it feels like he has on the inside horse versus what's happening on the outside horse.
It's a difference. You have an apprentice rider that's still developing physically and a journeyman rider that is a strong, aggressive guy already. It's a different kind of fitness level, right? And that's why you get the weight allowance for the young rider, because they've got to kind of go through that growing pains, if you will.
Still look incredibly new to the sport, Christopher Elliott, but he's making an impact, but still has a lot to learn. But first, I believe, won with his first ever mount, and then his first ever ride at Monmouth as well.
Yeah, and the thing is the one thing that all apprentices will get better physically. They'll get stronger. They'll get fitter. Riding a smart race is not something every rider develops into. He already rides a smart race, so he has the mental idea of the game already, which is a much harder thing to master. The physicality will come with, the reps, just doing it over time.
Race 5 was scheduled for a mile and 16th on the grass. Comes off now, obviously. We're off the turf all day. Main track now at a mile. 40,000 claiming race. Non-winners of 2 lifetime. And it's willing to risk it all on the rails. Opened up right now as the favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I figured a lot of people were going to kind of gravitate towards the 15, the MTO. People love an MTO, especially when it's trained by Chad Brown. But I thought the 1 and the 2 towards the inside, the 1 willing to risk it all in Frizzante, both of those horses made a ton of sense in here. I don't think it was nearly as straightforward as just let's look for the MTO.
All right, more on this coming up in a moment. Let's look back to earlier. Our FS2 audience did not get to see this prep for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Grade 2, Gallant Bloom, and arguably the top female sprinter in the country. Ways and means, odds-on favorite. How impressed were you with this, JK?
I was very impressed. I mean, I've always been impressed with her, so it doesn't take a lot to get me going. Flavia never even used the stick. Showed it to her at the end, probably just as a, hey, in a couple of weeks we might need this, and I just want to let you know it's there, but I thought she was outstanding.
I thought she was outstanding as well. I was more impressed with this than her grade 1 victory against 3-year-olds in the test, which was impressive in its own right. But this was, to me, taking her game up a notch. Like that she won. This is what you want out of a prep. You'd like to win it, but you'd like to win it the right way, something to build on as opposed to something tearing you down. And that's what we talk about. Look at how flat her ears go. She just gets intense. She wants it. If I was another horse and I pulled up alongside that, I think I would be a little bit intimidated.
And this is going to be one of her first opportunities to go, go 7/8 in the Breeders' Cup, potentially go 7/8 on a fast racetrack. I know she had the opportunity, some might say, in the spinaway, but she was injured in that race. I don't think the real ways and means showed up.
Yeah, look, last 2 starts test as well. Wet racetracks. That was the case today. The best race she's ever run was on that fast track Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. She might be even a lot better than what we just saw here on a fast track.
She's good. She's very good. And, Jonathan made a great point earlier. She's a 3-year-old. There's maybe potentially a lot more improvement there than a horse that's a little bit older. Horses don't fully mature till 5. In the 3-year-old year, they're changing all the time. She could be a bigger, stronger version of herself come 5-6 weeks from now.
And who would have thought the turf trainer, Chad Brown, potentially going to win 3 back-to-back Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprints? Pretty impressive.
No one considers that anymore, do they?
I know. I'm being facetious. I'm being facetious. That was a narrative for some time, but I think his list of grade 1s and on the dirt has changed that quite a bit.
Here's a look at who's expected to line up in that Filly and Mare Sprinter, pointing to it at least. And Vava obviously did not win that Ballerina, but has been a major force in this division all year long in Society. The way she ran that day at Saratoga, you have to consider. Let's take a look at that race in which I would assume these top 3 finishers are all going to come back, including Scylla.
Society showing a little bit of a different dimension, right? Allowing another horse to take the lead, rated a bit from the outside under a heads-up ride by Tyler Gaffalione, who, we talk about Dylan Davis having a breakout Saratoga. Tyler Gaffalione, also I thought a breakout Saratoga. She's good. I think this has gotten a much deeper, interesting group as the years develop, hasn't it?
I think so. I mean, and Ways and Means has done a lot in that arena to do so. And I think that Society, the way that she was able to run here, kind of made the division a little bit more interesting. Prior to this race, Vava was just kind of beating up on all the other horses going 7 furlongs. And now suddenly it seems like it's a much more wide open division with Ways and Means jumping into it, Society the way that she ran. And let's see if Scylla can run a little bit better going forward.
A horse that kind of flying under the radar that's been consistently winning. My Main Squeeze, and her win in the Dogwood was very, very good. And this is a New York bred filly that's a 3-year-old that also has the opportunity to continue to step up and improve. I think she's interesting in a horse that just doesn't seem to get the respect that I think she deserves.
Well, we're going to take a timeout. We'll be back. We have the 5th still to come, and we'll look ahead to next week as well. A lot of more important races. JK talked about it too. These 2-year-olds going to take center stage over the course of the next week. Todd Pletcher and the brother to Fierceness going to move to the grass in the Futurity. We'll have a preview when we come back. Stay with us.
American Oaks.
$4K to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. $400,000.
Eclipse champion Blame, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
The 2024 Global Symposium on Racing, celebrating 50 years of being the premier networking event of the year. 50 years of connecting the who's who of racing and collaborating face-to-face with key decision makers. Discover the latest technology and innovation while being a part of the international conversation. Join us December 9th through 11th. Register at RacingSymposium.com.
Here's Buckham Dano, 3 of them across as they pass the 3/16 pole, and Buckham Dano has taken the lead. Works for Me now back in second, then Jimmy the Tooth, and Where's Chris? It is Buckham Dano, and you can put this one in the books. He is now 3 for 3, this 2-year-old gelding. Buckham Dano, much the best.
Yeah, New Jersey bred who got it done in a Futurity that came off the grass last year. An impressive start to his career. And, of course, we showed what serious quality he has moving into his 3-year-old season.
Absolutely. He wasn't able to win the Jerkins, ran into domestic product, but ran well and has been running well all year. It's another example of these fun 2-year-old races that we get very excited about. It's because you're going to have the stars of the future that are going to be running next weekend here in races like the Futurity, the Champagne, the Frizette, and also the Miss Grillo.
Well, this year's edition coming up in our next week's action. Among those we're going to see in the race, we talked about Mentee. Going to be making that switch to the grass, the brother to Fierceness for Todd Pletcher and John Velasquez. And under whose radar Chasing Liberty. They're going to meet each other again.
Absolutely. It's one of those situations where Chasing Liberty and I thought ran really well in this race. Kentucky Downs is a little bit tricky though. The way that course is configured, it's always I tread lightly taking form that you see there and applying it elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, it's a lot of undulation in the course. They go a little bit right in places, a little bit left. It's like over the river and through the woods. And some horses just aren't as athletic and handle it well where some are. So kind of interesting.
Meanwhile, Mentee, track record and a distance, not run a lot at this track in that debut in the Belmont and Aqueduct, the brother to Fierceness, and nearly got run down after opening up. And then Maggie, some time off. We see him in the hopeful. Things did not go great that day. Now the shift to the turf. What do we expect next week?
Your guess is as good as mine, Greg, as yes, he did have that issue with an infected hind leg that, led to some signs of laminitis, but they caught it in time. So that's why we saw that long break for him, relatively speaking, from that maiden debut win to the hopeful. But as his Hall of Fame conditioner, Todd Pletcher, has said that watching him work on the turf, he shows a great deal of versatility. And the fact that he's a City of Light, Todd has felt as though that his progeny do well over the turf. There isn't much pedigree on the bottom side, as it's been well documented that he is half-brother to Fierceness, possibly and arguably the leader of the 3-year-old division. But Todd also saying that he's a different physical than his half-brother, whereas Fierceness kind of is that longer, rangier type. Mentee, more compact, more shorter coupled. So the fact that we're cutting back a furlong to the 6 furlongs on the turf may suit him. Kind of an odd race, the Futurity, Greg, as there are several horses that will try the turf for the first time.
We'll see. I mean, obviously, with his very famous brother, there's always going to be a lot of attention around Mentee, and we'll see. Maybe back to the dirt at some point, too. We'll see.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's especially when you have a horse that maybe wants to go a little bit shorter. If you want to try to get him in the Breeders' Cup, this is kind of a sneaky way to get if he can handle the turf. And to Maggie's point, the City of Lights have been really, really good on the grass, even though he was as good as he was on the dirt.
See what happens next week. And then Gary Contessa, he had a very good Saratoga. Epitaph won first time out for him, a little unexpected at 12-1, a New York bred who will be tackling Open Company, but was forward in this race with Junior Alvarado against the return mount.
Yeah, he's in some deeper waters. He's going to have to face here in the Futurity, but he did it well. I mean, he found himself on the front end, and maybe he'll appreciate a little bit out of distance. Probably need to go a little bit faster to be competitive with this group.
Right, but he could take a step forward. He'll need to, but he could. And I like the fact that he traveled so well, right? He made the lead, but he was doing it the right way. He wasn't being sent to make the lead. He was in hand, and I like that. Much tougher spot, but he earned his ticket.
All right, we have that coming up for you next week. Another big weekend as well. Champaign and Frizette we look forward to. In addition to this race with more runners eyeing that championship weekend early November out at Del Mar. We get to race 5 here. Close out an early pick 5. Off the grass, 1 mile main track, and favoritism still down on the inside with that one right there.
Yeah, look, I mean, I thought that the 15 was going to end up being the favorite in here just based off that MTO, based on the connections. But I thought the 1 and the 2 were drawing live into this spot. Willing to Risk It All, who's got a nice dirt race, 4 starts back. And he's also been running well on the grass. You know, a lot of times we'll look at these horses that are running on these off-the-turf races and look back to some dirt race that they ran, a year ago and say, oh, horse got dirt form, but is in horrible form in general. This horse is in pretty good form anyways.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the race does come down to the 2 inside horses. Obviously the outside runner, the 2 outside runners, right, 2 main track onlys, especially uncorrelated, taking a lot of money. This is a horse that last year, second start right into the Gotham, now shows up, off an extended layoff, a year-and-a-half layoff basically, and is in for 40, so it just feels like maybe the white flag went up a little bit.
And
there.
a new gelding, too. Yeah, long time away. I've not seen him since that Gotham try against Raised Cane March of last year. Let's go back down to Maggie.
Okay. Yeah, as we'll take a look at number 2 in here for Zante, who I was really impressed with his last race as he shipped in for trainer Greg Sacco and was just narrowly defeated by a heavy favorite who got a much better trip than he did, and that was Whiskey and Soda that day. Frisante was the first one to make a move into the pace, which he launched 3 wide, but then the pace setter drifted off the rail significantly, putting him in about the 10 path going down the stretch where it left the door wide open for Whiskey and Soda to scoot right through. Kind of wonder what the rider on that front runner was doing that day. But anyway, Frisante still running on very gamely. And I remember actually Andy Sterling liking this horse quite a bit. And I thought, well, he looks okay in this field. He looks very fit, striding out well, moving well. Michelle Nevin thought it well enough to claim him and up him in price today. He makes the same impression that he did last time on me up at Saratoga. She will apply front wraps, but that's kind of typical for her over these wet racetracks. I think Frisante is to be respected, Greg.
Well, he is right now at 7-2. Thank you, Maggie, as we take a look at Flavien Prat on the favorite as we kick off our post parade, trained by Jose D'Angelo.
Yeah, look, this horse has a nice dirt race, 4 races back, but it's the 3 turf races where I feel like this horse is in pretty good form right now. Looking forward to seeing him run in this spot.
Only wet track try, did hit the board, and same you could say for Frisante as well. Michelle Nevin off the claim.
Yeah, that's what I like. I think he's in good form. Maggie talked about it unlucky last time. Frisante, it's a gentle, sparkling wine as opposed to a spumante.
Thank you for that, Mig. As you chase me, 4-1, Dylan Davis.
Yeah, it has an okay dirt race, but that was against maiden 40s and hasn't run since early in August at Saratoga.
With the scratches, we skip to the 9 masterwork here.
Yeah, this one doesn't have any races recently that put him in competition here.
Jose Gomez, Union Express.
Yeah, another one who just didn't run very well last time and doesn't have any dirt for him at all.
Officer Derek, 25-1.
Showed good speed when ran on dirt previously. This is the first start on dirt for Horatio De Paz.
Here's the Chad Brown runner, last seen in the Gotham last year.
Yeah, this horse has been working with Moore's Law, who's like an 80 buyer type. So, and has worked this horse like 3 times. So I thought that was at least interesting to note.
Big number on this horse, ice time to the outside.
Yeah, it took him 14 times to break his maiden, but he does have dirt form, and he was entered specifically hoping the race would come off the turf.
5 minutes from this 5th on our Sunday card. You can play all the races we're seeing you and much more with Now Bets. Get that offer right there. $200 deposit match, new customer bonus with that code at sign up. Match to 100. Again at NYRABets.com, just in time with championship weekend closing in on us. Another big weekend, of course, really across the country next weekend, including here. And then the stage pretty much going to be set.
Yeah, we're sorting through all these preps, heading to Breeders' Cup, and we've got the 2-year-olds in spotlight next weekend, which is always fun.
Do you guys have one that you're most excited about seeing that weekend?
I'm excited to see what Cinza Parole does, the Chad Brown filly that will likely hopefully will run here in the Frizette and then go on to the Breeders' Cup to run the juvenile fillies. I'm excited about that race. The Classic's going to be outstanding. I think having fierceness in the City of Troy and that race will be a lot of fun. And then I think that the Torpedo Anna and the Distaff to see if she can kind of cement an outstanding year. I think those are all 3 that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, it's just a smorgasbord of great racing, and I'm really the Classic for me. Watching City of Troy work, he does something to me. His stride, I mean, I know it was over synthetic, his last work, and it kind of like a staged race, but he just always seems to find, and it's what I term a horse rolling over his shoulder. He gets that extra extension, and that's the only way I can explain it. When I watch it, it just looks like there's a different, almost economical action to it with an extra reach.
What I will say about City of Troy is, he is a son of Justified. I'm sure a lot of people think that that's probably Coolmore's best chance because they've got this American pedigree Triple Crown winner. But to me, it's them learning that I think with that practice race that they did that you mentioned on the synthetic course, it's not so much that they did it on the synthetic, it's that they did it in a practice race with a much faster pace than he might be used to see how he handles clipping along a little bit quicker early. And I think that says a lot about Aiden O'Brien and their operation to be able to pull off something like that, to give him the best chance that they can based on what they learned about good horses that they've sent over here to try.
Right, put them on a plane, ship them, have the horses to be able to put that together. And I agree. I think it's brilliant. Trying to recreate and see, hey, he's not going to get to gallop into the race. He's going to have to run into the race. And he was always traveling. Again, it's a workout. It's synthetic. But, man, the way he moves, that's what gets me. And someone asked me, do you think it'll translate to dirt? He looks like the kind of horse that would run over the proverbial broken glass. He just looks like he's going to run.
Been pretty special to this point, just adding extra intrigue with how much he's been talked about in such high regard for that classic division. Let's go back to Maggie.
Yeah, it feels like nearly 20 years ago, Greg, more than that, that Giants Causeway, they brought him over to try to do just that. Of course, Tiz now denying him of that Breeders' Cup Classic win, but I have been gobsmacked by the quote from Aiden O'Brien comparing the progeny of Justified to those of Galileo, a sire that he has had his hands on so many of his foals over the years with the utmost success. And he's saying that the Justifies that he has worked with give him the same impression of having the talent as Galileo's, but with a better mind, as we've seen his progeny just be so good. But I'm really looking forward to the Classic as a whole, because I feel like it's a very wide open, murky division, at least when you look at the contenders on the American stage and what they're going to do. Are the 3-year-olds just plain better than the handicap horses that we have? They're going to get tested, and maybe this is the Breeders' Cup Classic ripe for the pickings for that European invader of City of Troy to come in, sweep in, I should say, and take down our most lucrative race. As we will take a look at some of the horses here on the track for this Off the Turf event, beginning with number 11. That is Union Express, who has never been on the main track. He actually has a good deal of pedigree. He's a half-brother to Express Train, who is a multiple graded stakes winner going long on the turf. Actually, a grade 1 winner out in California for John Sheriffs. And the Accelerates have been best going long on the dirt. Now you wonder why, as a 4-year-old late in the season, is this the first time they're going to try it? And 2, it's a sloppy track. He did come in a little bit hot, so he's a little sharper today than what I had seen from him in the past, kind of a longer coat to him, but he's not overly turf meant, and he should be able to get over this surface okay. He's a big price with a lot of question marks, so he should be double-digit odds in here, but I thought there was some upside with him given the pedigree. Now, coming back off the layoff and switching to favoritism is number 15, Uncorrelated, who seems to be directly correlated to rain, because this is the 3rd out of 3 starts that he will be contesting over a wet track. I would love to see this poor horse on a fast track, but here we are. I'd also be a little bit more confident if this race was a touch shorter. I feel as though he might be, at least off the layoff, does he come up a little bit short for the fact that he's just built more like a sprinting type, weirdly. Being an Arrogate, that is weird. He doesn't look like your typical Arrogate. He's chestnut, and he's actually quite broad. A lot of them are dark bay or gray and quite long and lanky and very leggy, much like he was. But he does come back looking very fit, very strong. He's actually very laid back, too. So not expending too much energy pre-race and not giving the indication that he's going to be too fresh in this one. Greg?
Maggie, thanks. Here we go. 5-2 on Willing to Risk It All, but favoritism has moved outside to the long time away for Uncorrelated. New gelding coming back for Chad Brown. Won at first asking, so of course, can win fresh, certainly, and always from this barn. They're usually ready to go.
Yeah, can't get enough of an MTO trained by Chad Brown. It makes sense. I mean, like I said, this horse has been working with Moore's Law, who's an 80 buyer type and has had 3 works with him. The fact that Chad keeps matching them up together makes me think they're similar animals. If this horse runs an 80-something here, maybe the 8-5 makes sense. I think other ones offer some value.
Yeah, he just doesn't have enough proven form for me to go on. I'm going to go down to the inside with Frizzante. I just think he's in good form, and his last race would be good enough to win here.
Let's go to Chris Griffin for the 5th.
Ice Time, last to load to the outside. And in. All set. And they're off. Union Express from in between horses, flash of speed. There's Uncorrelated trying to join them from the outside. Frizzante in that early mix, and at the rail here's Willing to Risk It All. These three across the racetrack here as they get set to come out of the chute. In between horses, Frizzante with a nose in front. At the rail there's Willing to Risk It All, and outside of them, 3 wide still, there is Uncorrelated, and now they have hooked up with the backstretch. Just in behind them is Officer Derek in 4th. In between horses is Masterwork. At the rail there, Purple Silks is As You Chase Me, a big gap back to Ice Time, second to last on the trailer. Union Express broke on top, but is now tailed off to about 10 lengths the trailer. 23.32 for that opening quarter mile. Willing to Risk It All is in front. Host of pursuers to the outside. Frizzante, then comes Uncorrelated 3 wide. At the rail, As You Chase Me starts to progress. Officer Derek out in the center of the racetrack, less than a half mile to go. Masterwork in between horses. Ice Time is trying to make up some ground, and far, far back, Union Express still double digits the trailer. 46 and 3, that half mile time. Willing to Risk It All is still there. Frizzante with every shot. And here comes Frizzante is ready to challenge. These two are noses apart as they approach a quarter mile left to go. As You Chase Me has slipped right in behind them. And As You Chase Me has the leaders in sights as they reach the top of the lane. And Willing to Risk It All is still there. Frizzante is trying to push on by, has every shot. And now Frizzante has asserted, is now ahead in front, down at the rail. Here comes a run from Ice Time from far out of it. And Ice Time's got a lot of momentum at the rail. Here comes Ice Time with that rally. And Ice Time is now the leader. Ice Time was far back, but Ice Time is now sprinting away. Ice Time rides the rail and gets the victory. Ice Time wins it over Frizzante. Then came As You Chase Me and Willing to Risk It All in 1 minute 37 and 3.
Ice Time with the win up the fence. Lane Luzzy for Jimmy Ferraro.
This was a super ride from Lane Luzzy. He was patient. There was a hot pace on. He saved every inch of ground from that far outside post, found the rail. And honestly, the ground saved and the ride he put on absolutely made the difference. Lane Luzzy contributed a terrific ride to procure the win.
Yeah, this horse was hard for me to get to. I thought these other 3 horses were more interesting, made a lot more sense. And Ice Time, maybe it's not, I don't think it's a personal thing. I have a hard time taking horses off of Tom Amoss. When horses get claimed away from Tom Amoss, he's such an outstanding trainer. I think the stats support that as well. This horse got an outstanding ride and trip up the inside.
Good for Lane Luzzy, who took that shot to the face late in that meet at Saratoga, and then he actually put together a few wins late in the meet.
Listen, Saratoga's tough. When you don't have access to the top horses in the top stables, and the fact that he was able to finish on a high note with 3 wins, his dad, Mike, works for him, looks so much like his father on a horse, and this was a really good impression of how his dad rode. Patient, smart, saving ground. And listen, I've got to say, I've watched Lane grow up. I've known him since he's an infant, so I'm proud of watching how well he's doing in a ride like this.
11-1, saving that ground, shortest way around the track from that inside slot. 2 for 17 now. Wins at 11-1. To close out this early pick 5, we're going to say so long to Mig. Andy Serling going to join us after a short timeout, but it was fun.
That was great. Always being on with you guys is fun, and I'll be back later, but unfortunately you guys are going to leave me. I thought, whatever happened to leave no one behind?
That's not our choice. We don't make the schedule. We'd be here with you all day if we could. We're going to take a timeout. We'll be back again. Andy Serling going to join us after this timeout. We'll be back with a lot more Ice Time on this sloppy sealed track. It's Lane Luzzy and Jimmy Ferraro for the win.
At the Keeneland September yearling sale, the premier thoroughbred auction venue in the world, Mandy Pope of Whisper Hill Farm signed the ticket on the $5 million sale topper by Curlin, bred by Stone Street Thoroughbred Holdings. He was one of $5 million plus yearlings by Curlin to sell. No fewer than 44 of his yearlings fell to the auction gavel, averaging nearly $600,000, making Curlin the #1 sales sire at the September sale. Curlin, the classic sire.
Welcome back. You're watching America's Day at the Races as we just saw the conclusion of today's 5th race. Bit of an upset, 11-1 on the other MTO. That was number 16, Ice Time, and ridden to victory smartly by Lane Leslie here with me now. And Lane, a big horse. We were just talking about, you rode the rail from the far outside post the entire way around there, and I think such a difference maker.
You know, a lot of times the track's sloppy. People think stay off the fence. But, you know, after the first race, Irad had a nice trip. And I said, you know, I'm kind of void of speed. They were flying early. I'm just going to get over to the fence and see what happens. And, you know, after every horse I passed, there was a hole for me. And turning home at the quarter pole, it was my only option. So it ended up working out good.
And he responded beautifully for you, too. A horse that took a while to break his maiden, but seems to have figured it out finally.
Yeah, and those were some tough, you know, maiden special weight races he was coming out of, and he really threw some good races. But, you know, on a perfect day with a perfect trip, you know, he got brave and gave me a good run, so it was great.
We've seen you deliver on a lot of long shots, and as we mentioned before break, your dad, Mike Leslie, your agent now. How much do you guys work together? I mean, are you going back and watching replays after a day's concluded?
I mean, we're just fans of the game. I mean, we're going home, we're watching races from everywhere. We talk about this constantly. This is what we love, so every race, every replay, we go over, even if there's nothing to discuss. We just love it, so it's a blast.
Did your mom get frustrated, like at the dinner table, like, guys, come on, racing's done for the day?
I think she's kind of used to it. You know, she was, you know, watched him ride for 30-something years, so she might have to deal with it for another 30, so it is what it is.
Well, Lane, really job well done. Always a pleasure to catch up with you.
Thank you, Maggie.
All right, Lane Leslie gets the win with Ice Time. As Greg, you got somebody new joining the desk as well.
Yeah, we do. Andy Serling joining us. Cool to see someone who grew up here, you know, in the winner's circle on these grounds with his dad being a rider, now having success himself.
I want to know if he rides his dad's saddle with the Steal Your Face symbol on it. You know, his dad's a fan of the Grateful Dead. I want to know if he gave him the son his saddle. Well, ask Mike.
We'll have to get to the bottom of that.
We really
You're in
will.
charge of that research since it's Grateful Dead information.
Can I get on it now?
24-40 to close out the early pick 5 that included odds-on ways and means, and it's going to come back over $1,700.
You really got to throw out favorites and pick 5s. It's the only way to make money in them. That's what I heard. I read that on Twitter.
2 odds-on horses.
Yeah. You got to throw those odds on. Yeah, 2 of them. One of them in a 4-horse field, one in a 5-horse field. You got to throw them out. The only way you can make money in multi-race bets. That's
Race
what I read.
6 comes off the grass. New York bred maiden special weight at 6 furlongs, and late scratch of the 9 in here.
Yeah, the late scratch of the 9, and Andy and I both, I think, are interested in this 12 horse. I'm not crazy about the 7-2. The 12-1 was a lot more appetizing. Obviously, that was going to come down with the surface change, but I still think the horse might creep up a little bit.
If they're smart, knowing you and I picked this horse, they would scratch too.
Well, more on this one coming up in a moment. We're going to look back to yesterday and the Pilgrim on the road to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and Chad Brown gets his 4th win in this race. Zulu Kingdom just keeps on getting it done.
It's pretty remarkable. The Zulu Kingdom has won 2 stakes in a row for Chad Brown with a Todd Pletcher horse that was clearly best, finishing second in both races. I mean, I know he had a little trouble, but nothing compared to the one who obviously should have won this race.
Yeah, Noble Confessor ran extremely well, but you know what? Zulu Kingdom ran well too, and he's run well on a couple of different, starts now, back-to-back starts. It's interesting with these horses who are running so well on ground with Given It, how they're going to handle what they'll run on next, which is likely a very fast track at Belmont.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be shocked if this horse wins the Breeders' Cup, but I've been shocked before. He's been just so fortunate in his races, and I don't know who's really out there. I also know that the 3rd horse in this race didn't exactly get the best of me. He had a good trip leading up the stretch, but I don't know if Ricardo Santana is getting days or not for that, but that was a little scary there at about the 16th ball, huh?
We'll see what's next for that horse. Chad Brown, an early adopter, Chad Brown says might need a little more time. We'll see.
I'm not even sure he'd be able to get into the Breeders' Cup, you know, so he probably ends up sticking around, wanting maybe one more race here for next year. He's shown some promise. He stepped forward a little bit. This horse is good, but he's a little opportunistic.
Big week for 2-year-olds that have their eyes on championship weekend at the Breeders' Cup Futurity. We'll see Mentee there. Brother to Fierceness making the turf debut. Champagne, Frazette, big ones for those in those 2-year-old divisions. Matron and Miss Gorilla rescheduled, canceled from today and moved to next Sunday.
Feels like Chad Brown is probably a big favorite to win both the Champagne and Frazette. He's going to have, obviously, Senza Parole going to be a super short price in the Frazette. We saw the horse, the Chibi, come back and run an 86 buyer this week, improving the figure. And, I mean, Chancellor Patrick's got to be favored in the Champagne, I would assume.
Hopeful winner. Excited to see that action next weekend. You'll definitely want to be with us for all of that. Right now, we're going to take a time out. We'll be back. 12-horse Joker on fire. Faced a pretty good one named Sacrosanct last time out. Third place finisher in that field, came back to win as well. 4-1 favorite, though. Tough field next when we come back.
He possessed such natural athleticism.
It is Golden Pal winning the Juvenile Turf Sprint.
He's very, very agile and quick.
Golden Pal has repelled the challenges.
Each and every race, he just got better and better.
Golden Pal broke like a rocket. Golden Pal, wire to wire.
He's a very confident horse.
Golden Pal, the lead is out to 5 lengths in deep stretch.
He's just got a brilliant mind.
They're all behind Golden Pal.
I'm going to be breeding everything I have to him.
You just have to get in the seat of a John Deere Gator XUV 835M. Not because of the spacious cargo box.
We're always picking up rocks out in the field, and the hydraulic bed has been really nice.
Or because it can tackle any terrain.
It can handle anything.
Not even because it tows up to 4,000 pounds.
We can pull things around easily.
You just have to get in the seat, because something about being this productive just makes you smile.
It's made life a lot easier.
Learn more at johndeere.com/getintheseat.
He's a running son of a gun.
Papa Cap now has the advantage.
A graded stakes winning 2-year-old. Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Juvenile runner-up at 2. Multiple Grade 1 placings at 3. Finished in the top 4 in 11 out of 12 starts.
And from here on in, it's just a matter of how far. Papa Cap, an easy winner of the best pal.
Papa Cap, standing at Walmack.
For the first time I ever entered the gates of Elapa, at first I was pretty nonchalant. I've seen a lot of farms, and I came here and the gates opened, and for me it was magical. It was like something I've never seen before. You know, the goal has always been to sort of try to have a vibrant thoroughbred farm, a bucolic, unique setting, respectful of all the buildings, everything in the past. It's a bit eclectic because Mr. Sims, one of the original owners of the farm, bought a horse from Europe called Prince Palatine, who I think is the third grandsire of Prince Quillo, a very prominent horse in Europe. And the horse died in a barn fire, and he said, no horse will ever die here in a fire again. So everything he built was stone and concrete, which today the challenge is that first in craftsmanship, availability of materials, and the expense would be impossible. So everything is here, is done in stone. Our primary goal is obviously to be a great thoroughbred farm, to be the best we can be, stand the greatest stallions, raise the best horses. I believe the land gives us this opportunity. All our neighbors have been voices of the past of greatness. It's beautiful, but what are we here to see? Midnight Pursue, or Take Charge Brandy, or here's a yearling by Tappet, and here's a yearling by Into Mischief, and well, it's beautiful, and you're here to see Curlin. Beautiful, and you're here to see Go Sapper. He's an old veteran, but a great sire, great broodmare sire. Very excited about Army Mule, undefeated horse that we own with St. Elias. They're yearlings this year, Good Magic yearlings this year, champion son of Curlin. I view the Stallion Barn as a NFL, NHL, college, any kind of team. Constant recruitment, try to get the best athlete you can. There's a great past, there's a great present, and hopefully there's a great future.
Our program brought to you in part by Hillendale at Alap. Just a stunning property out there. As we get set for our sixth coming up, we're 13 minutes away from this New York bred maiden special weight, moved to the dirt off the turf all afternoon long. And there's a look at Ragtime Prankster by McLean's Music and trained by Mark Hennig. Of course, McLean's Music stands at Hillendale, was incredibly brief career, was pretty sensational.
It was really brief because he was especially fast when he ran. He's actually the holder, and this is the 2-year-old sales work at OBS of Ragtime Prankster, a nice 10 flat. I thought an impressive work. He has, McLean's Music has the highest career debut winning buyer of 114. Sadly, he never ran again. But he's produced some good horses. Complexity, Sire of Sires, Cloud Computing.
Well, Flavia Pratt will be aboard this one for Hennig. And with more on how they look downstairs, and wow, favoritism. This one's co-favorite, 7-2. Difficult race to handicap. Maggie, help us out.
And it's a good-looking cast of New York-bred 2-year-olds here. So not making my job any easier to try to eliminate some, as your favorite in here for sure on the outside Joker's Fire. He looks great, but I've liked him in several of his efforts so far. We'll see if he can take down a field that might be more turf meant. But let's start with some first-time starters, including the one who is taking the bulk of the play when it comes to debuters, and that is Super Swift, a son of Vekoma, out of the dam Super Marina. She went 3 for 12 on the turf, but she won an off-the-turf stakes race. But this guy have to Russian Realm, who we'll actually see later on in the card. So he looks as though he should be A-okay over this surface. And furthermore, Russian Realm, really good-looking type. And this guy is too big, really has that physical maturity that you like to see. And like I said, I don't think that turf is necessarily his only option. He should run just fine over this surface here today. It looks fit, ready to go, is quite sharp too. Number 3, Rockable, I think is worth a mention, given the fact that he's a half to Acoustic Ave, who won his first start and was a multiple stakes winner as a 2-year-old on the dirt for Christophe Clement. And this one, I was kind of ready to write off, looks small, a little underdeveloped against this field that he meets today, but Acoustic Ave, he was pretty small too. So it kind of runs with the line. Like I was saying, it feels like Super Marina. She throws very big, good-looking types, and I suppose that Rock Avenue Road, she throws small types. But you know, the fact that he was entered for the turf, okay, the dam was better on the turf, but he looks really actually dirt meant, and that he should be able to handle himself over this wet surface, but in typical Linda fashion, also looks as though a start might be needed to gain some fitness. Moving on to Mark Hennig's number 6, Ragtime Prankster. They paid a lot for this horse that I love McLean's Music, but on the bottom side, there isn't that much pedigree to get that excited about. In fact, he's a half to Bertrill, who might own the record for highest ROI of any horse ever, but she's won both of those races on the turf. And Ragtime Prankster did work 10 flat at that OBS April sale, but was asked a lot to do so. I didn't particularly like that. And he moved okay, but doing so with his head really held high in the air. I can say, though, that today, you know, several months removed from that sale, he makes a great impression here. He's a bigger type, really well-balanced and athletic looking. He's wearing blinkers first time out, and a pretty significant pair of French cup, you know, 3/4 cup blinkers. So he gives me the feeling that maybe the wait and see approach is what we're going to need to do here. As number 11, Son of Honor, he's a second-time starter and second time that he's been reined off the turf. We saw him compete with several others that he meets here again, including One Vision and Army Proud, but they had starts under their belt, where Son of Honor was a debuter and he just looked backwards, that he needed a start to kind of develop a bit more. And what has that start done? This horse looks completely different than what I saw from him first time out. He's so much stronger, so much more defined and athletic looking. He has really gone in the right direction after that debut, Greg.
12-1. We'll see the physical transformation with Son of Honor if that pays off here on the racetrack coming up. 8 minutes away from this 6th. Post parade here coming up momentarily. It's still the 1 and 12, both co-favorites at 7-2, Andy.
I think Maggie's just rubbing it in because I love this horse in the turf. This is a real turf pedigree. I'm not betting the 12 at 7-2 in this race. I like the horse, but I'm not taking 7-2. There's too many variables between the wet track and the outside post and all these first timers, and you don't know how many were meant for turf or they just wanted to get a start into them, you know?
It's our Spendthrift Farm 2-year-old race of the day. Spendthrift, home of North America's 5-time reigning champion General Sire Into Mischief. Here is Super Swift to kick things off.
1-2 for George Weaver. This one has IRAD, so this one's getting bet.
Mike Maselli barn with a firster by Salamini.
Only 6% with first-time starters throughout his career.
A little turf pedigree on this one.
Maggie talked about the pedigree with Rockable for Linda Rice.
I tend to stay away from Linda's first-time starters, but they do occasionally run well, but usually the money shows when they do.
Vakinda, another George Weaver runner.
Yeah, another Vacoma. George knows his way around Vacoma pretty well.
Army Proud, Joe Sharp barn. Frankie Dettori.
Finished behind the 8-1 Vision last time out in an off-the-turf race.
Pratt showing up on Ragtime Prankster.
The $170,000 purchase. We just saw the McLean's Music. Hennig only 3 for 63 with 2-year-old first-time starter.
Jackie Davis on Mo Creasa for the debut.
It's all turf pedigree on this one.
One Vision actually was favored on a race meant for dirt at Saratoga.
I thought this horse ran okay on debut, and if they can run back to that, they could be in the mix.
Stormy Birthday, Romero Mirage.
Yeah, this horse was 24-1 in an off-the-turf race last time, didn't do much running.
So one Maggie said looks completely different from that debut in a good way. Son of Honor.
Yeah, I still want to bet this horse on turf, not dirt.
And Joker on Fire, 3-1 favorite here, coming out of that sacrosanct race.
Yeah, there's been 3 horses to win out of that race, but it's not just that they won. They ran 21, 34, and 32 Beyer speed figure points faster than their previous races.
Let's go back to Super Swift. One of a couple in here for George Weaver. There he is, son of Vacoma, who had that funny way of going, but it was effective.
He's a very good horse. Wayne Carter and the Met, 2 big grade 1s, beating the best, forget the sire of the second horse. But anyway, he was a good horse. He won grade 1, he won the Bluegrass at a mile and 1/8 as well.
Such a fun horse, such a cool horse, and they talk about they talked about it a lot when he ran his action, how he kind of swung his leg a little bit, but apparently when he walks in a completely straight line. There's no crookedness about him at all, and his runners have shown up and really, really delivered.
We'll see how this one does for the debut here. Super Swift from that inside post. Had been working at Saratoga. Debut coming up here. Drawn inside and got to deal with the inside post. And now with a wet track here. And obviously a race coming off.
I think it's pretty clear the rail's been a good place to be today. We saw that in the last race. And it's funny, in this racetrack, because for at least 3 days we had a big inside speed bias. And we have had a track that hasn't been really kind to closers pretty much since we came to Saratoga. And all we needed was a rainstorm or some rain, right? Because I thought yesterday's track and today's track are really the fairest tracks we've seen. The rail's been good. Horses have closed outside, inside. Speed, closers doing well. Fair track.
We talked about it earlier with Mig. You see that tail tied up a little bit. Try and prevent that extra weight accumulating.
I hate when they tie my tail like that. How about you, Jonathan?
Army Proud. Frankie Dettori, Joe Sharp here.
I mean, it's just hard because he's had really good trips in his races, and what he has on the field is experience. But he finished well behind One Vision. Now, I don't think One Vision, the 8, ran that badly last time, showing speed in a race that kind of fell apart going 7. But still, I just can't really recommend him. But I did love his dam, JC's Shooting Star. She was one of my favorites.
Let's go back to Maggie.
Yeah, I share that exact same sentiment. I love JC's Shooting Star for the Dave Donk barn. And we'll see what Army Proud does here. He does finally look fit. I didn't think he looked as tucked up as I would have thought, having that one race under his belt in that last start back on August 16th. But he finally looks strong, really developed in his hindquarters now. So I wouldn't be surprised, too, if they're, given the fact that he has experience over several of these, that he is again a little bit more forward. As we'll check in with the, with number 8 that he met first time. One Vision ran. He is one that continues to develop quite nicely. Was pretty sharp back in the paddock. Then once he got the tack on, he settled in nicely and has done so too out on the racetrack. And I've been longing to see this horse try the turf because he actually does have a turf hoof to him. But I think he'll be fine yet again getting over the main track. But this time is the first that he'll be on a wet track. So maybe he'll like this that much more, Greg. So we'll see the experience edge, I think, as we'll see number 2 in here coming out. Monsignor? Not sure if I said that. O'Grady will come out here, I'm being told, Greg.
Yeah, it's going to happen in a minute. So, yeah, Monsignor O'Grady, take that one out here in just a moment. That's going to come off the board. Huge price. And there he is. We will not see him participate here. So 2 minutes to post here as we get set for this 6 coming up. How do you feel? The ones with experience, do you prefer those ones here, JK?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we see that all the time in these maiden races. You hear about the next fastest horse in the world show up, but then there's a horse with experience that beats him. Well, there's no next fastest horse in the world than here, but I do think the 12 Joker on fire. I like the outside draw on this type of racetrack. I know that the inside, there's been horses that have been running up the inside, but that's just geometry to me at this point. I don't think there's any sort of bias down on the inside.
No, but I think the rail is fine, and I think sometimes on wet tracks people are afraid to go to it. It was good yesterday and today. If you just take the horses that have experience in this race, the 5, the 8, the 10, the 11, and 12, and if somebody said, I'm not telling you who's going to win, but it's going to be a horse with experience, I think the 8 would be 4 to 5 in here. The 8's races have been legit, and some might look and say, well, he's not running better speed figures than the other horses, and say, well, okay, fine, but the way he's running in those races, and as you point out how live his last race was, he's just better than these, I think. So
Why 6 to 1?
On who, the 8?
Yeah.
He should be longer or shorter?
Yeah, I mean, based on what you're saying, shouldn't he be shorter?
I think you said 8, Andy.
I meant 12. I apologize. I meant the 12
okay.
Joker on fire would be odds on. I apologize. This horse would be the second choice. I mean, I think, you know, I'm not sure why he's 5 to 1 now. Why he's a similar price to the 5. I thought he ran a lot better than the 5 did 2 back, and I think he ran okay last time where he was 2 to 1.
Can Santana Jr., he showed speed last time out. Does he have the ability to, from that outside post to get over and get to the front?
He's fast, this horse.
Talking about the 12.
I think he's faster, Jonathan, than the horses that have run. I just don't know if he's faster than there could be a first-time starter that's quick.
Yeah, there could be one that can run a little bit, but
or
yeah,
2.
but you know, from the outside post, though, one thing I like about him is that he doesn't have to make the front. He could still work out a nice trip just by, you know, stalking off. If something to the inside of him wants to be a little bit faster, great. Maybe it's better for him to have a little bit of a target.
Oh, I'm not going to cry. I mean, I'm also not going to bet him at 7 to 2. But
when was the last time you cried, Andy?
Huh? Probably in a movie or something.
Can't picture it.
I don't know. I cried a little bit after the first race when the 3 couldn't get up for second in the first race. There were some tears shed.
Look,
there was
both
a
the
flying
5,
remote control, perhaps.
Both the 5 and the 8. I mean, both these two are contenders, and you're getting 5 to 1 on each of them in here. And both can be forward. Can't they?
Yeah, no, yeah, of course, absolutely. I mean, you never really know, right? You just don't know, and that's the thing. I mean, I don't mind having the 12 with an outside post, except the only thing I'll say is, I mean, probably the horse just got outridden. But the fact that the 9 losing to Hatch 2 races back, he was not helped by being 4 wide in the turn. That didn't help his chances. Being outridden in the stretch by a stronger rider, and Ricardo Santana didn't help him either.
And there's the Vekoma from the rail. Rat Ortiz Jr. for George Weaver.
Have we seen a Vekoma win a stake yet? I don't feel like we have. I think that Complexity may have had a couple of stake winners. I think the Vekomas have not. I have a feeling he will be a stakes winning sire soon enough.
Let's see.
This one now the 5 to 2 favorite.
You never know. Is there a story or is it IRAD, right?
Usually it's the latter.
Jonathan's Way.
Jonathan's Way.
Yeah, he would mean the 9 to 2 third choice in the Iroquois that paid $4. Okay. Morning line maker at Churchill Downs someone needs to explain to him that the racing in New York's pretty good, especially in Saratoga. worst morning lines ever.
Sloppy sealed going here as we get set for this 6th coming up. Again, circling a bit, waiting. I'm sure that 2 by now has come off the board. Late scratch of that one coming out. And there's one of the contenders in here. Frankie Dettori back on that 5.
They're waiting for Acacia to come up. But you know what's interesting about the 2 horses for George Weaver? The 4 is completely dead, right? He's 15-1, and the 1 is 5 to 2-1 now. I mean, it's got to be more than IRAD, right? It's bizarre. Because I don't know.
I mean, I think it probably has a little bit to do with the success that George has had recently with 2-year-olds. I think that probably has something to do with it. Just a fun aside, the 1 Super Swift's brother is running in the next race, Russian Realm.
And I know you're excited about him. You love him. Hot barn.
Major player in that next race.
Jonathan's so excited he's going to leave before we run that race.
Back to Andy's point with the 2 Vacomas here, yeah, for George Weaver. I would think, yeah, it's got to be more than just the price differential. This horse has probably shown the bigger ability of the 2 in the morning.
Clearly. I mean, I'm always curious about these. You hear these people say, oh, the bigger priced horse won for Bob Baffert or Chad Brown or something. Over time, they don't, actually. Only on Twitter do they.
So here we go. About to load. 2-1 on a first-time starter from the rail. But you have some horses who've shown ability with a couple of starts under their belt.
My friend Dave Aragona,
decent prices.
My friend Dave Aragona just told me that the 1 has been working well, but he says one of the few Vacomas he's seen that has a similar sort of paddling style as Vacoma did. But maybe that's a good thing, the way Vacoma ran.
Didn't slow him down on the Met Mile.
Didn't slow him down at all. He was a good horse. He just was a horse that had trouble staying on the racetrack. But when he was on the track, he was good.
I still believe that he was going to win that sprint.
What sprint?
The Breeders' Cup sprint when he had to scratch the week of.
Who won it?
Whitmore.
Oh. But then we wouldn't have been able to do that story on Whitmore and show it all winter long. And Greg loves that story.
Ortiz Jr.
Greg especially liked it when he won the Forgo. It's one of Greg's favorite wins.
8 deep in that sprint to miss the pick 5 for 80 some odd
Well, that
thousand.
was pretty silly, but you love him like you love Analyze It. I'm not Analyze It, Catholic Boy.
2-1 favorite, Super Swift, the son of Vacoma for the George Weaver barn. On the rail with the Rat Ortiz Jr. We're set for the 6. Let's go to Chris Griffin.
Joker on Fire. Stormy Birthday was right up to the gate, backed out. So still 3 left to load. Goes in. Son of Honor. Joker on Fire. Goes in. All set. And they're off. One Vision breaks very well, so does Vakinda. In between horses, Super Swift is at the rail, up on the 4 outside, trying to join them as Joker on Fire, but Vakinda is quickest. Vakinda right out to the front. Host of pursuers in behind a trio. As moving forward comes Joker on Fire, is now engaged as a shared 2nd and 3rd. With at the rail, Super Swift. Then comes One Vision, who's back to 4th, trying to catch them. They're from 5th is going to be Army Proud, and Army Proud is under drive with Stormy Birthday to the outside of that. Rivals, they're very strung out. 22-1 was that opening quarter mile. Further back there, Ragtime Pranksters towards the back end of the field with Son of Honor as those 2 try to make up some late ground here. The 2 at the back, Mo Creasa with the trailer, Rockable. They're still chasing Vakinda, and Vakinda has approached a quarter mile left to go. Super Swift appears to have run, but is right in behind Vakinda, and the new leader is Joker on Fire. Joker on Fire is trying to sprint clear. Vakinda's not done towards the inside, and Super Swift's trying to catch them both. Son of Honor is rolling on the grandstand side as well, but it is still Joker on Fire with a nose in front. Now Super Swift is pointing straight, and Super Swift is sprinting away. Super Swift got in the clear, and Super Swift figured it out late and got the score. Joker on Fire 2nd, then Vakinda, and Son of Honor in 1 minute 11 and 3.
George Weaver's 2 first-time starters run 1st and 3rd in here for a minute. It looked like the bigger price was going to be the one who was going to get it done, Vakinda, but it's Super Swift. Turns it on late to get by the horse with experience, Joker on Fire.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just you see the 2 George Weaver's, the 1 and the 4, both ran really well. But this one, who had taken a lot more money than the 4, got some, got a kind of a nice little situation with those two kind of hooking up in front of him. But went ahead and took that one from the outside.
Dave is right. He does have a similar running style to Sire. I knew the 12 couldn't win, so the only horse could pick him up was the 1, so we knew we had to be second there. And I think it's funny that they didn't bet the 4 at all, but the 4 actually ran fine and showed a ton of speed.
1:12, 4:11. And
Maggie was right about the 11. He ran better.
Gets the win here in the debut.
Thank God. We were in danger of having a winner, Jonathan.
It was close.
I was worried for a second.
Rad Ortiz Jr., second winner on this Sunday card. Let's go back to the start.
I don't think there were any particularly bad starts as much as horses just don't have much speed. And this 4-horse, boy, he was fast, and man, he was intent on the lead. And Irad was happy to rate and made it comfortably.
14-1.
I think the 11 would have won on the turf.
Looked good for a little bit before weakening late in the debut. 2 today, again, for Rad Ortiz Jr. on this first-time starter. Super Swift for George Weaver. Joker on Fire has to settle for second. Son of Honor. Maggie had pointed out, looked transformed physically and able to round out that superfecta at 9-1 under Junior Alvarado. 6th in the books with the favorite here on this sloppy sealed track. That is it for me. Acacia Clement going to take over here, and you're leaving as well?
Yeah, I think we're going to ride together, Wolf. You
That's
can't
right.
leave
I
me.
forgot about it. I'm looking forward to it, though.
You're trying to leave me here.
Is he carrying you?
Generous enough to say he actually would pick up the Uber, and I forgot he's even coming with me.
I paid for the Uber yesterday. Make him pay.
It's already done. It's too late. Acacia, Andy, going to take you the rest of the way on this Sunday card. Enjoy it. And, of course, big weekend coming up next weekend, especially with the 2-year-olds that have designs on championship weekend. Take a look back at what Farbridge did in the Joe Hurst Turf Classic. Back-to-back Grade 1 victories for the Clement Barn. Stick around.
You're watching America's Day at the Races, brought to you in part by Naira Bets. You can bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Get started at nairabets.com today. Hello, everyone. Acacia Clement, happy to be here. Started out downstairs, so joining on the desk here for the rest of the show. Andy Sterling still with me, and everybody else left. It's just us two.
I think the MIG is coming up because
Yes.
he said
I understand
he
he's
wants to
returning.
talk about the 9th race.
He's very
He's got
excited.
a lot of things to say about the 9th
He
race.
might be a
and
bigger
really wants
Panigay
to
fan than me.
Get back there for that because that's going to be the race. Don't miss out that last race.
It will be a fun one. Of course, we're off the turf, but we did just see a nice 2-year-old performance in race number 6. Of course, that race run on the main track, but Irad Ortiz and Super Swift getting the job done at First Asking, a son of Vekoma, winning on debut for George Weaver.
It's a bit of a running style like Vekoma, and sat in the pocket behind his stablemate with the 12 perched outside and was able to work out a perfect trip, a professional performance first time out, a very good trip, and we'll see where he goes from here.
And as you guys were talking about before I came on, just what Vekoma's done so far as a stallion, I have actually seen quite a few of them that paddle like his sire, and it does not seem to stop them. He's been tremendous so far, and this one winning nicely at First Asking. Super Swift, a homebred, in fact, for Randy Hill, who, of course, was a co-owner of Vekoma during his racing career.
Randy's
So-
a co-owner of 90% of the horses running, is he not?
Well, yes.
Roughly,
but, yeah.
somewhere between 85 and 90.
He puts his money in the game.
Randy, who I, like a lot, have known for many, many years, after the retired Dornoch, I said to him, I
Yes.
congratulate him for winning the Haskell. He said, it's really exciting. And he said, he gets no respect. Do they know?
Randy also has one of the most fascinating life stories I have ever heard.
I do not know
He's a
his life
very,
story.
very interesting
He's a great guy. I've known Randy a long, long time.
Congratulations to Randy with the home run winning there. Race 7 coming up next. This one, a scheduled dirt race. New York bred first level allowance coming up a mile on the main track here, and get a job. To the outside. Currently the favorite, did get a fast figure, dominating the pace last time out at Saratoga.
He is going to beat me in here. I don't like him. You know, I think Nunzio is as fast as he is early, and I think while he obviously improved a great deal in his second start, he ran a track at Saratoga that was very kind to speed. He found the right field to run against, and I'm going to be surprised when he's able to duplicate that performance. If he does, he'll probably win this race, but I'm going to bet against it happening. I like Liberty Central and Nunzio.
Also the least experienced in the field as well, so spotting some races versus his competition today. We'll talk a little bit more about that 7th race in a moment, but yesterday we were jam-packed with stakes action, including the Grade 1 on the card, the Grade 1 Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. Horses coming from off the pace, running 1-2, but Farbridge showing that win in the Sword Dancer in Saratoga, no fluke.
No, and it wasn't a fluke. And, you know, as even Christophe was saying earlier, we were talking about it, he ran very well when he finished 3rd in Manhattan.
Yep.
He's a quirky horse, and that's hurts him in some races. But he's a very talented horse, and I would say right now he's the leader of the older horse going long on the turf. I guess Carl Spackler, at least the East Coast-based horses, is probably one of his chief rivals for the Eclipse at this point, and we'll see what happens in the Breeders' Cup. And it's funny, you know, he got a little shuffled back on the turn when the one sort of backed out of there. Joel's ready to sort of wait anyway, sometimes to his detriment, but not always. And I think he ended up giving the winning ride. Junior rode exactly how he was supposed to ride on the runner-up. The horse that presumably he had to worry about was the Godolphin horse it was getting away from. And Junior came after him, and Farbridge at that point was sort of nowhere in sight. And what's Junior supposed to do? Wait to try to pass the other one and wait until Farbridge shows up? And if he had waited and not caught Silverknot, he would have gotten just destroyed by people, and maybe justifiably so. So what ended up being the wrong move, but he did it for the right reasons. It just didn't work out that way. And with Joel making the last move and being able to get inside, Farbridge got it done. And I'm glad to see it silence the people who think he just got lucky in the Sword Dancer, because he's a very, very good horse. He needs to find some luck to win because of how he runs, but that doesn't take away from his talent.
Always been a horse that showed a lot. Don't forget, he debuted in a turf race down at Gulfstream Park where he won, and Carl Spackler finished second. Two very highly thought of turf horses now both Grade 1 winners.
They might be the 1 and 2 in the right now for in America, the American Turf Horse. And it's so funny, and I said this in the show before, I remember Chad Brown calling me driving back from Gulfstream that day, and he said, and he hadn't told me about Carl Spackler, I didn't know, I don't really ask, and he said, I ran a first-time starter today. I know this is a stakes horse. I cannot believe that this horse lost. And it turned out he lost to another very, very good stakes horse.
It's always funny how those races turn out to be what you see moving forward. But Farbridge picking up another Grade 1 yesterday in the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. Christophe Schering that came back sound, clean-legged, and all systems go on to the Breeders' Cup. When we come back, we'll talk about Kendrick Carmouche enjoying a good fall meet, picking up quite a few victories and doing it all for the fans here at the Big A.
Spun to Run. His brilliant speed figures were among the fastest of any 3-year-old at a mile or more, and he hails from the legendary Danzig sire line. Now, this multiple graded stakes winner, millionaire, and Breeders' Cup champion is passing his remarkable talent along to his progeny.
Night Beacon airs at the home of Spun to Run's Breeders' Cup victory.
Spun to Run, standing at Gainesway.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. True odds, predictive analysis, and pace projection. RaceLens. It will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
Welcome back to America's Day at the Races. We have horses in the paddock for race 7, New York Bred Allowance race, going a mile. And Get a Job is the favorite to the outside. Hey, Andy, get a job. we love what we do. If only we could call this work. But Get a Job, the favorite for more. Let's get a paddock report from Maggie Wolfendale.
We'll see if this is a hold my beer moment for the siblings, as Russian Realm, the older brother to what we just saw win in Super Swift in the last race, can get the job done here, as Russian Realm, as I mentioned in the paddock report for the former race, that it's a very good looking family, and he looks fantastic here, as he did try the turf last time, which was run over a complete bog. So, well, I still think trying the turf is worth a shot, to be fair, in a more traditional turf course. I like the fact that he's back here on the main track. We'll see how he negotiates a wet track, though. That might be, a slight problem, but obviously we just saw his brother do so, so why can't he? Really looking the part in the paddock is number 2, Nunzio. I'm not quite ready to give up on this horse yet, because last time, when facing winners for the first time, we saw Choose a Crowd wire the field that day, and Nunzio was kind of put in the chase mode. And if you watch Kendrick Carmouche's body language, the whole way around there, he is niggling at it. He is hustling. And he's such a big, long-legged / big strided horse that when you do that to those types, it really kind of messes with their rhythm and with their breathing. And I just feel like he was never given a truly fair shot to run his best performance. So we'll see what they do with him here. Obviously, he's going to have to break running with the more inside posts. But again, I just hope that maybe he can sit, find that rhythm with a target in front of him and run them down for Michelle Gianggiulio, who's having a tremendous meeting. And this guy very forward in the paddock, sharp but not doing too much here, Acacia.
Some good news there, Maggie. Thank you. We'll see what he can do and if they can continue on with the strong meet that both trainer and jockey have been having. Nunzio, lightly raced, yes, was the favorite last time out. See what he can do in this spot, Andy.
Wow, Kendrick's I didn't even realize how well Kendrick's doing.
Yeah.
Wow. Good for him. I
know
he's won a lot of races. I just don't always pay attention that much. And Saratoga, it's so in our face every day.
Right.
But we don't pay as much attention here. Good for Kendrick.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see if Kendrick can pick up another one in this upcoming 7th race. But continuing our stakes recap from yesterday, we also had the Grade 2 Woodward earlier in the card. And, it was kind of a day for quirky horses, Andy. Tapit Trice, also a quirky horse who put himself behind the 8 ball once again right at the start.
I think it's fair to say he was much the best winner here. Because now, listen, the early race antics are his fault. He broke about a half slow, but it sure ain't the first time he's broken slow before. And it's a horse that I think Luis Saez took a little unfair criticism sometimes for his rides because he's just a tricky horse to ride. And right in here, as you see Dylan's trying to split horses, actually maybe it was a little before that, he's going to get steadied. I guess he got steadied right before we got on camera there. And it seemed at this point that the favorite was gone, Skippy Longstocking. But honestly, this was a no-excuse loss for him and a much the best, relatively narrow, but much the best win. And once he got out in the clear like that, man, he started picking up that ground. He almost
you see that stride extend right there.
Hey, listen, he's a neat horse. He's not at the very upper echelon of the Grade 1 horses, but he's a neat horse. And I'll say one thing about him. He's probably more consistently at the 100 buyer level necessarily than Skippy Longstock, who's run some 107s in his day, but he also has run some clunkers. And it's a bad loss for Skippy Longstocking. A very nice win for this horse. And listen, tomorrow's the 57th anniversary of Dr. Fager, Buck Passer, and Damascus meeting here at Aqueduct in the most legendary Woodward and maybe race of all time. It won't be confused with that one, but he's still a pretty neat horse. And the Woodward, I know, listen, it's not, the Breeders' Cup has destroyed all of these big races. But to me, as somebody who's been around a long time, the Woodward will always be a meaningful race. And I look back to so many great runnings. When Ali Sheba beat 49er and Wacoit back at Belmont, the Woodward's a great race, and it's a nice win for Tapit Trice.
Certainly is. And like you said, for a horse that maybe has had some antics, has taken some criticism along the line, knew that the talent was there, and he put it all together, really performing as the best that day. We'll see. It's kind of interesting in a wide open older horse division, and then as far as the 3-year-olds are concerned, rather wide open as well as to who could step forward into the Breeders' Cup.
Right, and a lot of question is going to be how much pace is really left in there. Dornoch coming out takes some speed out. If there is a lot of pace, a horse like Tapit Trice could overachieve and run fairly well in there. We'll see how much pace shows up, and that's going to be really the story of the Breeders' Cup, because right now, I know everybody says, oh, Fierceness and City and
Torpedo Anna?
No, the horse from Europe.
Oh, City of Troy.
City of Troy are the two horses. Well, we have no idea if City of Troy is going to handle it, and I'm sorry, but Fierceness hasn't shown me anything I didn't know about him. I knew he was the best 3-year-old in the country under the most ideal circumstances. I still don't know if he's competitive when he doesn't have everything go his own way.
We'll see what happens. Moving on to the Breeders' Cup, a fascinating conversation as we see horses here in the paddock for this 7th race. Again, it's a New York bred allowance, and Get a Job was able to control things. And yes, he was much the best in here. Andy, it was his first time against New York bred competition. I'm just still a bit dubious about him, and maybe it's because I was just against him last time and I'm still a bit salty about it, but I just can't imagine he's going to get the same kind of scenario that he did in his last race.
Well, you know, who is he?
Right.
The horse that ran first time will be last in here.
Yeah.
The horse that ran last time is one of the major contenders in this race. There's no doubt about it, but you and I aren't ready to concede that he's that horse at this point.
Let's meet the rest of the field, starting things off with the number 1, Bob John Ray, really trying to turn things around.
Well, the argument for him, the flimsy argument, is he hates Saratoga. Before going to Saratoga, his form was good.
He was.
And his form was terrible up there.
Stuck with a bad outside post in his last 2 races. We'll see
Still.
if being drawn to the I know. See if being drawn on the inside will make a difference. Here's Nunzio, still lightly raced.
Well, I think he can be forward, and I think he can run well second, third start.
Bad Larry comes out of that same race as Nunzio.
He could be forward in this race as well. I think he's a little overmatched here, but the Wayne Potts barn has been very live.
Liberty Central coming out of New York Bred Stakes Company.
He's my top choice here. He couldn't get the mile and eighth without the lead last time. He was against the bias 2 races back and has plenty of races that make him a player.
Russian Realm also tried New York Bred Stakes Company.
Is it me, or is he a little chilly on the board
He
right now? A
is.
clear-cut second choice in doubles.
Very fast race, 2 starts back behind Vetriano. Here's the 6 Provision.
Well, there's a lot of people that are going to say if he wins, I'm glad that pick 6 didn't go today.
Here's Co-Conspirator, another one who's a big price.
Ditto.
Boys Code, yet another long shot, but I know you've had some interest in this guy.
I got a little love for this guy. I think he's a little bit interesting. Maybe pick up some pieces. I don't know how great he is in a wet track.
He's
though.
never a short price, and he has hit the board plenty of times. And here's one who is a short price, get a job.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to play against horses that have a track that's in their favor, that step up under, sort of easier conditions. But to be fair, he ran a fast race last time, and if he's able to duplicate that effort, he's going to be tough here. I just think you and I want to see it again.
Yep. Well, let's go back to Russian Realm, because this is a horse who, we'll take a look at his maiden win, would certainly be fast enough to make him a big contender in here, and then ran another fast race against Vetriano, very highly touted New York bred sprinter at that time, and then on to turf. But as you said, a little bit cool on the board given how quick his races have been on numbers.
Yeah, and we'll see if he gets bet a little bit more as we go forward. I have mixed feelings about him. I mean, to be fair, I'm not going to hold his turf race against him because forgetting about that, he didn't run that badly, and also it was a driving rainstorm. Nobody made up any ground. He really didn't run badly in that race. If they think he's a turf horse, I would give him another chance in the turf, to be honest, depending on what happens here. And the time before that, he lost to Vetriano, who was running huge races. Now he's stunk in the Allen Jerkins. Jonathan was pointing out to me earlier in the day that Vetriano, the horses coming out of that race, have not come back and run particularly well. So that's a bit of a negative. But still, I mean, he ran a 70. Okay, so he's not an 88 buyer horse. He doesn't need to be unless Get a Job runs back to his last race. He could be the 77 buyer horse he was when he broke his maiden. Now, I have just sort of, as I said that, by the way, I turned around. He went from 4-1 to 2-1. I guess I woke somebody up. I wouldn't give myself that much credit.
For more on Get a Job, your co-favorite, let's go back to Maggie.
Yeah, a horse that I'm laying eyes on for the first time. I really have no problems with him here. He's excuse me, he's a little bit smaller than maybe his main rivals, such as Russian Realm or Nunzio, or even Liberty Central for that matter, but he has that longer, even frame. So going a mile, much like he did last time, he should be just fine. He is very laid back in the prelims, so a horse that displayed pretty good speed last time out, not necessarily showing that today. And furthermore, somewhat slow fractions in which he did, kind of increase his speed around there, but got away with it easier. I just feel like there's some other horses to beat quick in here too, but at least he's drawn towards the outside. So I'm not totally against him, but I'm not going to be that excited, or I'm not that excited to take 2-1 on him. As number 4, Liberty Central, he drops out of the Albany. And this is a horse that in the past, he has been a little bit of a bad actor, especially behind the gate. He was accompanied by the pony in the paddock today, much like he's been pretty much every time he's run since he began his career, and has handled himself beautifully. I thought that last time he got pretty revved up once they got the tack on him in that Albany, so maybe expending a little bit more energy than what you'd like to see. And today he's very calm with the very calm atmosphere here at Saratoga, or excuse me, at Aqueduct. But he looks great, and he's third off of a layoff, and I don't think he ran that badly against probably some better horses last time in Pandagate, who we'll see in the next race, and Doc Sullivan. So he makes a lot of sense to me here at 7-2, though I'm going to try with my man Nunzio one more time, Acacia, at a generous 7-1.
He's a generous price, Maggie. Thank you. Nunzio, still lightly raced, can have some forward position as well. It makes a lot of sense in here.
I like the 4. I don't think 7-2 is a great bargain on him because there are variables. The 9 could be okay. The 5 could be okay. But the 4 has run well and has had excuses in his races. But Nunzio at 7-1, twice the price, I think is maybe a little bit more inviting. Now, the difference is that Nunzio doesn't have a fast enough race, whereas Liberty Central is running races that are in the realm of fast enough, and he's not getting particularly great trips in doing it. So Nunzio does have to get faster, so it's not surprising he's a bigger price. But he's also lightly raced. He's only run twice. He ran sort of well in his first race. I mean, he beat a horse, Ferrari Prank, that's now, 0 for 15 or so, is running here, I think, on Friday in the first race. So he's beating a horse that has a habit of losing, but still, and I don't want to hold a second race against him. I don't love the race itself. This is a much, much tougher New York bred non-winners of 1 than the one he was in last time. I will say that. But maybe sometimes off the maiden win, they don't run as well in their second start, and they come back and take a step forward. But this is a significantly potentially a significantly tougher field than the likes of Tuza Crowd and Skylar Starship.
I think a very good point to make as well. Liberty Central, top pick for you, though, at 4-1. As Maggie said, coming out of a third-place finish in New York Bred Stakes Company. It's funny, the same 3 horses finished top 3 in both the Albany and the Gander. And so he's shown up when he's been put in tougher spots.
No, and I agree. I think the Liberty Center, also 1 1/8. He's not winning in a 1 1/8 unless he can wire the field. Yeah. And without being able to get the lead there, whatever slim chance he had to beat the likes of Doc Sullivan and Pandagate went out the window.
See what kind of position he can get today. There is Nunzio, still a nice price at 6-1. Top pick for Maggie. Andy going with the 4 Liberty Central. We load in for a fun group of New York breds here in race 7, starting a crew, giving a little bit of help to the 7 co-conspirator. Here is track announcer Chris Griffin with the call. Race 7, Belmont at the Big A.
Liberty Central and Get a Job. And in. All set. And they're off. Liberty Central has early speed, and from the far outside, there's Get a Job. Joining them, co-conspirators in between horses. Towards the inside is going to be Bad Larry. That's the leading 4. Joining them, here's Nunzio. At the rail is now going to move on through, and Nunzio wants to challenge for early supremacy as they get set to come out of the chute. They are now going to be head and head, as here is Nunzio to challenge Get a Job, and now they are clear 1-2. Co-conspirators just off of them, stalking from 3rd, and Bad Larry's on the move is to the inside here of Liberty Central. That's the leading 5. Patient ride so far on Russian Realm. Is comfortable enough in the 6th spot as 3.5 lengths clear from Boys Code, who's starting to rally from the back. Then comes Provision with the trailer, Bob John Ray. They work up the backstretch, 23.35 was the opening quarter mile. They approach a half mile left to go. Nunzio is still there. Get a Job is engaged towards the outside, still within a half length of the leader, 46-4, the half mile time. Bad Larry still waiting for room. Liberty Central in the pink cap is on the move. Losing some ground is co-conspirator from the back. Russian Realm starts to rally and Boys Code. The 2 at the back still Provision and Bob John Ray. They're approaching a quarter mile left to go, and they are ready to swarm these leading duo right now as Get a Job now gets the cue. Nunzio is towards the inside. Bad Larry is trying to rally on in the yellow blinkers, and here comes the run from the outside here. That is going to be Liberty Central and Russian Realm is on the move, grandstand side, coming after Get a Job. It's Get a Job who's trying to find this final furlong. Here comes Russian Realm towards the outside with every shot. Bad Larry's got some clear running space as well. These two head and head. Russian Realm has taken the lead. Russian Realm gets the victory. Get a Job finishes second. Bad Larry re-rallies there for 3rd. Then came Liberty Central and Nunzio at 1 minute 37.54 seconds.
Russian Realm up in time here in race 7, back to the main track. And by the way, that's back-to-back winners that are homebreds for Randy Hill.
Nothing gets me excited like a couple of favorites battling down to the wire together. And I'll tell you something, Get a Job ran well in here. He had a deal with the 2 who rushed up, and it was an honest pace. Particularly the second quarter, a very good trip for the number 5 Russian Realm, who just wore him down to Dylan Davis. Bad Larry, another horse for Wayne Potts, outrunning his PPs a little bit and finishing a good 3rd after being inside and having to re-rally outside of horses. No excuse for Liberty Central unless you think he doesn't like a wet track. I mean, he was life and death to beat the 2 Nunzio by a nose, and Nunzio didn't even get out of the gate in here and rushed up to contest the pace. A disappointing performance by him.
5.93, it looks like, under the line, but Maggie Russian Realm back to the main track and to the winner's circle.
Well, Acacia, he did a hold my beer, because not only are they homebreds for Randy, they're brothers. As Russian Realm gets the win here, just like his brother did, Super Swift, in the race prior, and a horse that it's just, they're such a good-looking family. I mean, really beautiful horses nonetheless. Now, I'm surprised with the tactics from Kendrick Carmouche, because I really feel like Nunzio is a horse that you want to hold together, and this is 2 starts in a row where he is hustled and rushed him and hustled and rushed him, and it hasn't worked out well. So I'm still waiting for a ride opposite of that. A little salty here, but nonetheless, Russian Realm proving to be best.
A good day for the family for Super Marina, the mare of both Russian Realm and Super Swift winning the last race. So pretty fun when you do see brothers winning on the same card, back-to-back races. But 5.934 here in race number 7, Russian Realm getting the victory in New York Bred Company. There's Dylan Davis bringing his horse back to the winner's circle. Bring your prices, reactions, and more in a moment. We'll also take a look at trainer Chad Brown's arsenal coming up for next weekend in the Grade 1 Frizette and Champagne. He'll likely have the favorites in both races, with the likes of Senza Paroli and Chancellor McPatrick waiting in the wings. More on that after this.
This proven son of Giants Causeway has sired 7 millionaires. With over 10% stakes performers, his recent top runners include Tarabi, placed in the Grade 1 Spinaway and Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, Grade 2 winner Plum Ali, plus these standout performers. A proven value sire, First Samurai, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Welcome back. You're watching America's Day at the Races as we just saw Russian Realm gallop to victory, a homebred for Randy Hill, and this one trained by Danny Gargan. Ridden to victory by the man right here, Dylan Davis. And Dylan, Russian Realm really capitalizing on a bit of a pace duel out in front of him early.
Yeah, I just wanted to break well, and I didn't want him to have too much to do down the backside. So Just he wasn't handling the kickback early, so I opted to go outside there into the 5-path and then just keep him. I had to kind of nick on him most of the way. He was trying to lose contact with the field. But I started on him early there once I got to the turn, and he just a real big train. He just keeps motoring him down, and I just kind of keeping him with him. He was more of a hands and heels kind of horse than anything. But you know, he got to the last horse there with Flavian, and I thought he was going to go by, but he kind of wanted to stay there for a second, so I had to give him a little more encouragement that last little part and able to get his head up in front.
I was joking with you a little bit. This is a horse that your sister Katie had ridden before, broke his maiden on him. As you said, obviously you don't go for Katie's horses, but does she give you, she like stone silent when you pick up a horse that she's ridden?
No, she didn't tell me anything about this horse. Yeah.
She's smart.
Yeah, well, we're competitive like everyone else in the jock stream. You know, we have to do our homework and be prepared the best we can. And, you know, that's what I did here was watch how Katie rode this horse and try to get to match her, mimic her ride and see how he got along with her and do the same thing out there again. And it worked.
Dylan, changing gears real quick, we were talking about you on the show and just this summer that you've had. It's been incredible and kind of parlaying that into the biggest weekend that we have in horse racing, and that's the Breeders' Cup. You're going out to California, right?
Oh, it depends on this next week. You know,
I like that.
Winning your ends, so I'm hoping to get lucky. But, you know, there's a lot of thanks to everybody, the horsemen and the trainers and my agent Mike and everybody. We've all been putting our heads to the grindstone out there, and you know, I'm just happy that it's been working out. I didn't know what I was going to have that summer at Saratoga, but it was incredible for me and really felt like a breakthrough. But you know, just trying to keep it going and continue with that success and keep pushing forward to the top. You know, we're not looking back, and you know, I'm getting more opportunities now, and I'm just capitalizing on it.
It would sure be incredible to parlay that into a Breeders' Cup win. It would be the first for you.
Of course. Thanks, Maggie.
Awesome. Well, congrats here, Dylan. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, Dylan Davis, Russian Realm. As we just said, Dylan just really riding so smartly and so well, Acacia.
He really is. He's a lot of fun to follow. Maggie, as Russian Realm returns $6.90 for the win. Outgaming Get a Job down to the wire. These two had taken most of the attention throughout the betting. They're in race number 7 as we welcome back to the desk Richard Migliore here with us.
Yeah, different cast of characters, but just thrilled to be here with you guys as well. And one more race to get through.
Well, when you've got a 5-horse off the turf race in the last, we have to bring in some heavy ammo. So we had to call you in to come help us with this race.
It's like revolving musical chairs on the desk today. We've had a lot of rotation.
I think I was running because I can dance. You know, I mean, we can make something out of nothing.
You brought tap shoes?
Honestly, ballet's my thing.
I'm making nothing out of something these days.
Well, we'll take a look at what's coming up next weekend. It will be very key, as Dylan just touched on in that interview, a lot of the final big preps onto the Breeders' Cup, particularly for the 2-year-old with the Champagne and the Frazette. Chancellor McPatrick, who we saw win the hopeful closing day up at Saratoga, Andy, has done nothing wrong as of yet and likely will be that big favorite going into the Champagne.
Yeah, I mean, we're drawing these. We drew these races about a half an hour ago, so I don't know who's in them, and I don't know who's going to face them that realistically, in a fairly run race, is supposed to beat them. I believe Ferociously is going to Keeneland.
Yes,
Chad Brown said he wanted to stay here. He didn't want to do a lot of shipping back and forth with the Breeders' Cup in California. And Richie, this horse is just good.
You know, it's one thing when a horse breaks their maiden first time out. It's another thing when they break their maiden first time out in the style he did, right? Off the pace, overcoming some adversity, taking the kickback, dropping his head and finishing, and then backing that up with a Grade 1 victory in the same fashion. That's what gets you excited.
Right, no, I agree. I mean, listen, we saw a very nice maiden race this week where another Chad Brown horse, Praetor, got the job done, got a 90 buyer, and that very good Godolphin horse finishing second in that race. Horses that probably have stakes potential, but I'm not sure who's really out there other than horses like that can come into this race and necessarily be a major player, but I may well be missing something.
Well, as we bring Maggie into this conversation, Maggie, Chancellor McPatrick potentially going on to that Champagne next weekend. What have you seen from him as far as his development?
Yeah, Acacia, I was just trying to rack my brain of who else is out there? And I couldn't think of anybody off the top of my head either. As Chancellor McPatrick, as you were saying, he's a horse that I remember Chad Brown coming back and saying in an interview after the maiden that he was very impressed that he got up to win going the 6.5, but boy, is he going to be so much better when he gets more distance. And I really think this mile of the Champagne is going to suit him down to the ground. And he's not this, very striking horse. He's not that big. He's kind of your lunch pail horse in a way, but he's so athletic and he just gets the job done. He's also very intelligent. Watching that B-roll that we show of him, he has that real clear, honest eye to him, and he just goes out there, he does his job, and he gets it done. And I just think that is so valuable in these young horses. The professionalism and the trueness that we've seen in his 2 starts so far really put him at the head of the class, Acacia.
He has. He's been impressive thus far, Maggie. We'll see what the future does hold for Chancellor McPatrick and who could face him. And kind of to Maggie's point, if there hasn't really been anybody yet that's been so dazzling, but as we often talk about, with 2-year-olds, there can be a lot of progression, especially this time of year.
Well, the other thing, Richie, is I don't know, once again, I have no idea who's running this race, none whatsoever.
Sure.
He doesn't have speed, Chancellor McPatrick.
No.
So he is vulnerable to a horse that has some talent that could be able to control in front of him.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but the way he finishes, and I wouldn't imagine that if there was no pace on at all, that he wouldn't at least put himself a little closer. I'm not saying that he, is going to be on
that's
the pace,
fair.
but
yeah.
No,
I'm not. I'm just trying to find a little, what are the potential chinks in the armor of a horse that, without knowing, it's very hard to know exactly who it is. And we drew a little later than expected today, so I don't know who's in the race.
But he's exciting, and like I said, we see a lot of young horses that have ability, that break their maiden, showing speed, going gate to wire, and you don't learn a lot about them other than that they're fast. We've learned a lot about him in both of his starts.
And I think it's a good segue to talking about the other Chad Brown horse in the Frisette, because that's a horse that doesn't need to lead either.
No, Senza Parole, who was so impressive winning first out. And it's interesting, I was the reporter for her first race, and she is a gun runner, but does not look like a typical type of gun runner. She's a little bit on the smaller side, incredibly athletic. And I spoke to Chad Brown after the race, and he said she's one that has the pedigree for distance, but so much more racy speed looking. And you saw that on the track with just how athletic she is in the way that she moves.
Yeah, I will tell you, Chad Brown does not have concerns. I mean, obviously they have to go the distance to do it, but I had dinner with him the week before she debuted, and he said to me, I'm running my Breeders' Cup 2-year-old filly on Friday at Saratoga. And, I mean, they bet the Brad Cox horse who was second there, came back and ran an 86 buyer with a biased racetrack to make her run a little bit better, but she's good. And it certainly complements the race that she ran. She runs back to this race. She's a cinch in the Frisette and probably a cinch in the Breeders' Cup, frankly. She is fast and she is good.
And we talk so much about horses from a physical perspective and how far they may or may not want to go. The number one thing is the efficiency of stride.
Talent.
And talent. No, but she is so efficient in her movement that it just feels like she's floating. You look at, if you pan back through that field and look at everybody else, they're bearing down, and she's just flicking them out there. She was so efficient.
It's funny you say that because I had obviously bet her first time when I was watching with a friend, and they loved the Brad Cox horse. And they were going around the turn, and I turned to my friend. The Brad Cox horse was in a full-out drive, trying to keep up with her, and she was just cruising. And I said, man, I don't know what's going to happen for this horse to lose this race.
Yeah.
I mean,
by the way, they were right about the Brad Cox horse.
She's good.
Stunning, who we just saw winning the other day, like you said, with a big figure. But just that even flatters even more how impressive Senza Parole
No, I think that's a great point. And listen, you don't know from one start to the next. But Senza Parole, I think that Senza Parole didn't get a lot of conversation. That's why I talked about it at the end of the meet, because it was the first race the day before the Travers, when so much excitement happening that weekend. Nobody was really paying attention. Her debut reminded me a little bit of Echo Zulu's debut, which we probably talked about almost every day on the show until she won the spin away. But because of the timing of the race, it just kind of got lost in the shuffle.
I think that really kind of just shows you how great the racing is in Saratoga, that a performance like that could get lost in the shuffle, and it did.
I mean, that performance was every bit as impressive as Ferociously. And we talk about Ferocious as I could keep it straight, Fiercely, Fierceness. I don't know. Same, I'm getting old. But we talked about that the whole year. We didn't talk about her at all, basically.
That's right. Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to see both of those horses going postward next weekend in the Champaign and Frizette. Very important races stepping on to those Breeders' Cup juvenile races. Now, speaking about the Champaign and the history of the Champaign, Seattle Slew, a truly legendary winner of that legendary race. More on that story after this.
75, $774,000, 775, want to be 60, that help you, 60, 75, 760, 60, 75, and now 85, 785, 85, 85, 800, $800,000 Panker Surge, gotta be 8, now 25, 825,000, 50, $850,000, 50, 850, 75, about an $860,000 and a half, $850,000 in the back of Woodrow, thank you.
And my friend, it will be Garnet to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
The classic looks of a two-turn type, yet the precocious brilliance of an undefeated G1 two-year-old.
Maxfield, a breathtaking run at the top of the stretch.
Maxfield. He took it to the max in his chosen field. Now you need a mini Maxfield in your chosen field. His first yearlings are selling now. Maxfield. Classic looks and precocious brilliance. Darley.
It's America's original sport, and no one covers it better than americasbestracing.net. From the sport to the lifestyle, the best races, horses, and destination venues, cocktails, gambling, fashion, and more. americasbestracing.net is a sport for you.
In 1977, Seattle Slew galloped into the history books. Trainer Billy Turner and exercise rider Mike Kennedy prepared the colt for his date with destiny through a unique partnership.
And Billy had a personality to keep people loose anyway. You know, he'd find a joke to say or he'd laugh. He'd have something funny to say. He was just a great guy. But the kind of a horseman he was, he'd come in the morning and he'd go to each stall and he'd bring the horse up to the front. And he'd slap him on the neck. Hey, bud, you know, and he'd talk to him. Then you go to the next one and you check the feed pin, see how they ate up the night before. And then later on, I might say, Billy, you want to get so-and-so? No, Mike, we'll give him a day off today. That was the horse he knew it wasn't quite right. The first time we decided to breeze a Slew, we put him with an older filly and who had won allowance races just to get him started. But when we broke off at the 3/8 pole, he just took off. He had his mouth wide open. I couldn't get a pull out of him. You could have thrown a baby in. He had it, you know, wide open. I had to get to the 5/8 pole before I could pull him up. And his legs going everywhere. He didn't know where he was going. And this is how good a horseman Billy is. When he saw that, he said to me, Jesus, Mike, he said, we got something special here, he said. We never put him with another horse again. He never breezed with another horse.
Seattle Slew in front by 8 lengths. Seattle Slew going easily.
After being crowned two-year-old champion, Seattle Slew returned as a sophomore to collect Grade 1 victories in the Flamingo Stakes, the Wood Memorial, and the first 2 jewels of the Triple Crown.
It's going to be Seattle Slew, and he's going along easily. Coming on to the finish. Seattle Slew in front by 2 lengths.
Still undefeated as the Belmont Stakes approached, Seattle Slew's team suddenly faced an unexpected obstacle.
I was a mutual clerk in the afternoon. And when we came back from Pimlico after the Preakness, there was a strike on. The mutual clerks were on strike. So they wouldn't let me pass the picket line. So this went on for a few days, and they had trouble with Slew because he was running off with everybody. Nobody could hold him. And they figured they weren't going to win a Belmont like that. So Mickey Taylor called Billy and said, I don't care how you do it. You got to get Kennedy in here and get on this horse, or we're not going to win the Belmont. So I ended up going to Sally Bailey's house, her house backed up to the training track. And I came through her house. She had a gate on the backyard. I got through the gate, and Billy was waiting for me there, and I got in the trunk of his car so nobody would see me.
With all the pieces now in place, Seattle Slew and his team were ready to face 8 rivals in the test of the champion before an on-track crowd of more than 70,000.
And they're off. For the lead on the inside now, Seattle Slew goes for the lead.
Nobody questioned would he get the mile and a half around the barn, because I think Billy was so convinced that he would get it anyway, you know. He had faith in the horse, and he just knew his horse.
And it's still Seattle Slew, and he's opened it out to 4.5. Then Run Dusty Run and Sanhedrin.
With champion 3-year-old and Horse of the Year honors secured, Seattle Slew suffered his first career defeat in the Swap Stakes at Hollywood Park. A disagreement occurred between Turner and Seattle Slew's owners, which resulted in the horse being transferred to trainer Doug Peterson. Following his 4-year-old campaign, he was named champion older horse, but lost the Horse of the Year balloting to 1978 Triple Crown winner Affirmed, who he defeated in the Marlboro Cup. Seattle Slew retired with 14 wins from 17 races. He entered the Hall of Fame in 1981 and enjoyed a long career as one of the sport's premier stallions, living to the venerable age of 28. His passing was 25 years to the day of his Kentucky Derby win, which kicked off a magical Triple Crown run that put him and Billy Turner in the history books.
Of course, most well known for being the 1977 Triple Crown winner, but Seattle Slew, just an incredible racehorse of that 14 for 17 lifetime, Richie.
He added fuel to the flame that was already started with horses like Ruffian and Forgo, and then Seattle Slew comes along, and the die was cast what I was going to do with the rest of my life to be part of this incredible game. And you can make the case. If you look at what Seattle Slew did as a racehorse, being the first undefeated Triple Crown winner, and then what he went on to do as a stallion, you could make the argument that he is the greatest horse of all time, because he's probably top 10 racehorses I've ever seen, and he's top 5 sires I've ever seen, and not too many horses can hold a spot on both lists.
Yeah, I can't really talk about the Dr. Fagers, who, you know, I was alive,
well, I wasn't
but
around then,
you and I
yeah,
didn't really see him run. In a lot of ways, we talked about this before, he and Alydar, with Alydar's incredible success as a stallion as well, which unfortunately was cut short, were 2 of the greatest racehorse stallions of all time. But I mean, Seattle Slew, and you mentioned those horses, Forgo, and all those great horses that ran at those times. And I was privileged to see Seattle Slew only live a couple of times, but on TV a lot. And what an incredible career he had. Amazing. The 2 losses, obviously the swaps, but also losing to Exceller and running, I mean, that was a victory as far as everything concerned. And Dr. Patches in the Meadowlands, and of course that was the ride. Cordero rode Dr. Patches, and that was the last time Cruguet was riding him, and Cordero got him, and the rest is history.
Angel was looking for a gap to get his foot in that door for a long time, and he talked about it at length with me. When he rode For the Moment in the Kentucky Derby, he was in front after Seattle Slew got left at the gate, bowled his way through, and he said, we were going fast, and I looked over, and his mouth was wide open, Cruguet trying to slow him down, and I knew that day, this is a horse that's otherworldly. I need to get on him. And it took him a while, but he got it done.
But I'll tell you something, you know, people talk about him losing the Meadowlands. I don't think they appreciate how good a horse Dr. Patches was. Dr. Patches was running now. They'd be talking about him in hushed tones. Yeah. He had lost a photo earlier in the year to Forgo. When Forgo made his return, I think he never really came back, and I think it was his last win.
But he ran till like 7 or 8 years old, Dr. Patches. He was a killer.
killer.
What would he have looked like in the Woodward yesterday?
He would have looked like Flightline looked in the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah.
Well, I really honestly wish that we could just have this go on all day, reflecting on some of the great horses of
Why
history.
We're friends.
Absolutely. Love getting a chance to listen to the stories that you both share. Well, we'll have a chance to have the finale from the Big A coming up, and there is main track only runner Pandagate, first time facing older horses, drawing in. More on that after this.
It's amazing. I mean, we're used to having horses in claiming races, and here we're at the undercard of the Belmont.
And they're off in the Woody Stevens, and here's Bookham Dano, who has blown by them all. Bookham Dano, Prince of Monaco in between. It's going to get very close. Bookham Dano!
Winning on New York's most important day of racing.
I can't. That was awesome. He's the best.
Welcome back to America's Day at the Races. Remember, you can join Naira Bets and play all of the action and a whole lot more while earning up to a $200 deposit match bonus. Sign up with promo code MATCH200 and you could earn up to a $200 deposit match right after your first deposit. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Join now at NairaBets.com for your $200 deposit match. The nightcap coming up, this one off the turf. An open allowance here, mile and 3/16. And taking a look at the field, compact field with horses staying in, a couple of main track onlys will meet the field, though, starting things off with the 3 Hamilton's Way.
Yeah, his horse is probably better on turf, but you know what? Ray's going to take a shot and stay in, thinking maybe I can get third.
Yeah, a horse that started his career on the main track to no avail. We'll see what he can do, getting back onto the dirt for the first time since October, I should say, of 2023. 6-1 on the board, as is the 5 Classic Creation. First time on the dirt for him.
Yeah, I listen, they're just going to gamble a little bit. To be fair, he's got enough dirt pedigree.
Yeah, he does.
I can't blame them for staying in this spot.
Here's the 8 Bourbon Day. First time on the dirt in a while.
Yeah, did break his maiden in the wet, but he has kind of been better. At least he's shown he's been better on turf.
Next we go to the 14 Panda Gate New York bred.
So much to like. I think he'll relish the distance. He's good, in great form, big stride and son of Arrogate.
And number 16, first off the claim float, Linda Rice Runnin' Ray.
Yeah, well, gets into the Linda Rice barn. The horse does have some races on the dirt that will make him very tough here.
And his advantage, his theoretical advantage over Pandagate, and Pandagate I think is overall just a more talented horse, though Running Race runs some very fast figures going back, is that he has more speed. And as you know with Pandagate, being as familiar with him as anybody, he can be a quirky horse. And, you know, we talked about him last time. You were talking about how Dylan sort of had to wind him up to get him going. And he could be a potentially sort of tricky horse to ride in a situation like that. But he's very good.
Richie, I think the best description that you gave for Pandagate is he is a bicycle horse, and you need to time things right with him.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. It's difficult to time it right with a horse like this because sometimes you get to pedaling to get them going, and then they go, okay, it's time to go. You can't take it back then. You got to go with it. And I think last time that was kind of the example, right? He opened up a couple of lengths, and then to me, he got to idling a little bit. But
well, he beat a pretty good horse there, too, Doc Sullivan, who had a better trip than he did. I mean, Javier had the ability to sit and wait while Dylan had to really get riding on Pandagate. And I think Javier knew exactly who his chief competition was and how he could potentially beat him. So I think Doc Sullivan had everything his own way and got a very good trip and riding there and still couldn't beat him. And he's a good horse, Doc Sullivan.
But it's just interesting, right? If let's say he had gotten beat, people would say, oh, he moved too soon. What did he do? But they're not driving cars. He's a difficult horse because you have to get him running at some point.
Okay, that'll segue to a question I kind of wanted to ask you about. I meant to. Junior yesterday on the filly in the Joe Hirsch, Warlike Goddess. In retrospect, I'm sure Junior said to himself, did I move too soon? But what choice did he have? It's so easy after the race to ask yourself because the last move won the race. But isn't he supposed to have gone after Silver Knot? Isn't that what any sensible rider would have done?
Yeah, I think I would have ridden her the same exact way. This horse is going on. He's a horse you have to respect. It's not like some hopeless long shot that you go, well, that horse will come back to me. And the fact of the matter is, he would have made the last run if Farbridge didn't get stopped going into the turn.
That's also true. May have worked out for him.
All about that timing, but Maggie, Dylan Davis, who's aboard Pandagate, he knows this horse very well.
Yes, he does. As Pandagate, I don't see anything to detract from his favoritism in here other than the point that Andy brought up. And like you guys were just saying, is that he lacks that early speed. And boy, he shows that lack of early speed in his demeanor pre-race. He looked point blank sleepy in the paddock. Very, very quiet. Physically tremendous. But again, that put a little bit of doubt in my mind just as a favorite. And look, this is a pretty easy field off the turf here, and we'll get Lasix for the first time, but I just thought that Runnin' Ray had that tactical advantage over him, and Runnin' Ray is a really cool horse. I felt so bad for Joe Sharp when he won his last start, and I interviewed him, and because he'd been in his barn his entire career, and to lose an 8-year-old like that, Joe was verging on tears, and I certainly my heart went out to him because Runnin' Ray has just been so good throughout his entire career. And I thought, honestly, even though he was third off of a layoff, he still looked as though he could be a little bit more tucked up. And honestly, it's strange that I'm saying this about a Linda Rice horse now. He does, because Linda is someone that puts more weight and more conditioning on her horses. I think he looks great out there. So I do like what I'm seeing from Runnin' Ray, and he has that advantage of being a bit more forward. As we'll check in with the horse who I do think will appreciate the wet going here, and that's number 8, Bourbon Day, as he comes off a little bit of a freshening from Saratoga and returns to the main track. I wish he looked a bit stronger across his top line, and I think it's just something that you need to be competitive over the main track versus on the turf. You can be a little weaker behind, if you will, because it's an easier surface to push off of. There's plenty of pedigree for this horse to be okay on the main track. He's a race day. He's a half to Weyekin, who is a fairly accomplished kind of middle distance type of dirt runner in the Midwest. So I think, as the board would suggest, he's the third likeliest winner in this race. Acacia?
Fair enough. Maggie, thank you. We'll see what he does getting back to the main track for the first time in a while. But the 2 horses and the main track onlys in here, as Maggie touched on with the board and the way that it's playing, these are the horses that are entered to run on the dirt in Pandagate and Runnin' Ray. Now, the difference is Pandagate, a 3-year-old, versus Runnin' Ray, an 8-year-old, though he's been for $50,000. But how much of a difference, Andy, does the age make?
I don't know. I don't worry about it. I guess in the case of Runnin' Ray, you might want to say, has he tailed off a bit? I'm not sure. I thought he ran a little better than that buyer figure suggests of 80, and I'm not sure he's really that diminished. I guess it depends what kind of condition they're in. Obviously, Pandagate has more upside to him, but I don't think we're going to see some big forward move from here, do you?
No, but I also think this time of the year, right, we get through the summer, that it's less a disadvantage for a 3-year-old, right? They've kind of caught up. Over the years, you know, we see in the fall of the year the 3-year-olds going on to take on older. And when we've had really good 3-year-olds, right, we had Seattle Slew against Affirmed and Affirmed against Spectacular Bid. You know, they were able to beat them, but they were competitive.
You know, I'm not sure that Seattle Slew didn't pay the biggest price he ever paid to win when he beat Slew, when he beats Affirmed.
In the Marble Cup?
Yeah, I know he was 2-1.
Yeah.
And I think he was 2-1 in his debut. I'm guessing one of those two, they're very close to the biggest price he ever paid. He'd kind of fallen out of favor a little bit, and Affirmed obviously off the Triple Crown.
Well, he had so many gaps, right? He had gotten sick, then he was in an allowance race, you know, and then he gets beat, you know, at the Meadowlands. So people were thinking, well, maybe he's past his best. Best was yet to come.
A good kind of matchup here, too, and you get a chance to see the more lightly raced 3-year-old, but with some quality, as Andy mentioned, taking on older horses for the first time in a spot like this, entering main track only in a prep for New York Bred Stakes down the line, the Empire Classic against Older, potentially next on the docket for Pandagate. A horse, though, that has been around the world facing Forever Young in the UAE Derby, and I hope we get a chance to see Forever Young in the Breeders' Cup. Very talented Japanese runner.
Is he running Wednesday in Japan?
This week.
Now, I don't know, when is Wednesday in Japan? Is that like Friday here or Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah.
If I've never met anybody that's able to figure out the way that
You're
works.
going to have your alarm set for like the middle of the night.
I won't know what it is. It's going to have to be. It could be any time. There was funny. I love West Wing, and there was recently an episode I was watching. I watched it basically on loop of discussing, trying to figure out the way the time works and flying back, and it's impossible. So that race could be any day this week.
Well, we will certainly
Here,
follow Forever Young, a horse who ran huge in the Kentucky Derby, and we could see back here stateside for the Breeders' Cup. But Pandagate finishing third to him in the UAE Derby. He has won his last 2 races since coming back stateside. He's 4-5 right now in this off-the-turf 9th race. Runnin' Ray, main contender, at 2-1 on the board as well, as they're behind the starting gate. And Richie, when you have a horse that is a deep closer on a wet track like this, a short field, what's going to be the biggest key for Dylan Davis?
Well, I think just getting him motivated, right? You don't want to let him go to sleep and then give him too much to do. And we talked about it. He's a horse that needs to be directed. You know, he needs a strong ride.
Couple more left to load. Let's go one more time today to Chris Griffin for the call. The Nightcap, Belmont at the Big A.
goes in. All set. And they're off. Broken a very even line. Bourbon Day flashes early speed, and also there is Hamilton's Way towards the inside. And now Runnin' Ray wants to press on, and Runnin' Ray will take him into that turn. It's Runnin' Ray who's up by a length and a half. And behind that comes Bourbon Day as to the outside of Hamilton's Way. That's the leading trio. Just off of them will be Panda Gate, and the trailer at the back end of the field, that's Classic Creation. They're chasing Runnin' Ray, and Runnin' Ray is clear, went 24.37 for that opening quarter mile. Runnin' Ray is up by 3/4 of a length now as Bourbon Day starts to move in a touch closer. Hamilton's Way is back in behind the leading duo as they work to the backstretch now. Runnin' Ray is still clear. Panda Gate is now about 5 lengths off the lead. It's just watching this trio here from the 4 spot. And the trailer at the back end of the field is Classic Creation. 49 seconds flat for the half-mile time. Runnin' Ray is in front. It's Runnin' Ray trying to take him gate to wire, and Runnin' Ray is up by a half length. Here's Bourbon Day just continuing to stalk. Is back to within about a half length. Starts to inch closer now. Patiently ridden at the rail there is Hamilton's Way just waiting for a seam. They move into the far turn, and Panda Gate starts to move in closer, and here comes the move from Panda Gate. Panda Gate is within range, and also getting closer is Classic Creation from the back end of the field as they went 114.56 for 3/4 of a mile, and Bourbon Day has run by Runnin' Ray, but awaits the challenge from Hamilton's Way. And here comes Panda Gate to the outside of that rival. Classic Creation starts to move into it, but they reach the top of the stretch. Bourbon Day is kicking on, and Bourbon Day is trying to bottom out the field right now. It is Bourbon Day who's extending that margin, and Bourbon Day is now 4.5, 5 widening lengths in front. Hamilton's Way is battling on. Holds second. Panda Gate is right there. Runnin' Ray far back to Classic Creation, but it's going to be Bourbon Day on a Sunday. Belmont at the Big A to close things out. Bourbon Day wins it over Hamilton's Way. Then came a photo that was Runnin' Ray and Panda Gate in 1 minute 56.94 seconds.
Bourbon Day with the win for Brad Cox. Did break his maiden on a wet track a long time ago. And
at Evangeline Downs.
Yes, he did. But he showed something on the main track today. Much the best, in fact, in here.
The game has passed me by, Richie. It's over for me.
This horse ran.
If you had 8-3 here, you should get money and a medal.
I think the disappointment was that Panda Gate moved up into a good position, and even if he had run second, you would say, okay, this horse just kind of freaked on an off track.
Today.
But he flattened out.
He didn't run today.
I mean, and he might have barely held on for third, and Runnin' Ray, who was done at the quarter pole, came back to him. So that speaks more that Panda Gate just threw in a poor effort for him. And it was the first time that Panda Gate ever raced on Lasix. And some horses, people are always saying, well, it gets Lasix. Some horses react negatively to it.
And it's the first time he's on a sloppy seal track, so maybe he didn't love the track either.
Yeah.
But Lasix is fair to mention.
Point about the
you just
Lasix you bring, though. And especially with Maggie commenting on his demeanor, because he's usually pretty fiery. It's an interesting point. Just something to think about as well. But Bourbon Day with the win. Panda Gate does hold on for third. 8-3, 14-16 in the nightcap. Bourbon Day with Flavien Prat picking up another one. Much the best pulling away here, but disappointing efforts from your two favorites.
Yeah, I mean, this horse had speed. He hadn't shown in a long time. Wow.
When he was set down, too, you could see visually. I mean, he bore down and took off for home.
He was never losing this race.
No, he was never losing. I mean, he just made
the winner every step.
He loved the racetrack. I don't know, but he was in the right position and he took advantage. And again, I just think Panda Gate threw in an uncharacteristically poor effort today.
Yeah, I mean, there's losses where you say, well, they weren't good enough, whatever. He was bad today. He's not a bad horse. It's the first time, frankly, he's run badly. It just happens sometimes. It does seem to happen on wet tracks more often than it happens on normal tracks, but he just didn't run his race today. And it's not like the track, was favoring speed so heavily that horses couldn't make up ground. He simply didn't run today. It happens.
Well, we'll see what happens moving forward, but Bourbon Day, the winner. Before we say goodbye, we talked about several of the graded stakes we had yesterday. One we didn't touch on was the Vosburg with Mufasa taking a big step forward with Irad Ortiz in the saddle. Richie, I know, I think several of us have become big fans of this horse. He really accelerated nicely.
He always looked like a winner. He was always traveling well into the bridle. And what I liked is the way he finished. Now, sometimes horses win by open lengths, and it's more a product of the horses behind them struggling and their stride deteriorating. This horse ran through the wire. His stride never deteriorated, and he ran on. And he stamped himself as a legitimate Breeders' Cup horse in this Grade 3 Vosburg.
Richie's still really upset
I don't
about the
agree that he's a
downgrade.
legitimate Breeders' Cup horse. I think he's a nice horse. I love to see Nacho get a winner. Nacho Correa's a trainer. But I'm sorry, I just don't believe these horses are good enough to be the best horses out there.
I like this horse. And it'll be interesting to see if he goes sprint or a mile. Because I think he's capable of either.
He'll lose either one.
I think he belongs.
I don't. But we'll
see. We'll see.
It's one of the fun things about racing is that you can disagree, and then shortly you will see the answer right there on the racetrack.
That's the way it happens.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Do you want to arm wrestle?
No, that I would lose.
I've given you two a lot of freedom
I probably
today,
lose to Acacia, in fact, in arm wrestling.
I work out. Bourbon Day with the win in the nightcap. Flavien Prat picking up another one. Gets the victory on the main track, staying in, been in good form since being claimed for Brad Cox.
Well, the Brad Cox barn is 12 for their last 22 at NYRA.
Wow.
People that are wondering.
The
when they
good
lost the
record
races.
continues here. Again, that with the cancellation or the rescheduling, I should say, of the Miss Grillo, that pick 6 will now take place on Thursday, starting race 3 with an 8-race card. Pick 6 carryover.
8 race cards Thursday and Friday as well, and post time moves to 12:40 for the first race, so we'll be starting at 12:30.
That's right. Hope you'll join us then. It was a lot of fun getting a chance to share the desk with you guys and some reminiscing as well. Favorite performance from the weekend?
I can't even remember any races.
I thought you'd say Ways and Means.
Oh, Ways and Means. Thank you. Thank you for
Do it
that.
for you,
Yes.
Richie.
My favorite.
I'll go with that.
We'll come back to them on Thursday when they're fresh. We saw some big performances. Speaking of Ways and Means, there she is, winning the Gallant Bloom earlier on today, stepping forward onto the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Farbridge picking up back-to-back Grade 1 victories yesterday, taking the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic, and Tappet Trice in the Woodward, putting it all together. Maybe we'll have something to say in the older horse division. We'll see you back on Thursday. Good night, everyone.
War Dancer, New York's leading turf sire for a third straight year with Saratoga standouts like 26 Black.
Here's 26 Black surging by them all to win it by an
As well as Busy Morning.
Busy Morning in front, and Busy Morning wins it.
And wire-to-wire victor, Tour Jeté.
Tour Jeté all the way to score.
New York's #1 turf sire again in 2024. Shouldn't you have a War Dancer? War Dancer, proud to stand in New York.
There's a passion in this game that grabs you. It'll make you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week, and you will not be able to let go.
I'm so blessed to do what I do. I don't lose sight of that for a half a second ever. I get to train horses for a living.
If you've never experienced the race, you need to experience it. And then tell me that it doesn't get your heart pounding.
It needs to be in a bucket list for everybody to come to the races and get as close as you can to the rail. Just hear those horses going by.
It's like a thunderstorm coming.